One, the royal capital of the resized kingdom, serves as the beating heart of the nation, but every single surface off the main streets is coated in a dull, depressing gray, the stone. Bricks are completely riddled with cracks, and the surrounding one- and two-story European style buildings carry a heavy air of antiquity, but the closer one gets to the center, the more orderly things actually become. The air is fresh, but the overall atmosphere screams one undeniable truth: this is a completely different world. Metal clashes from heavy armor, and weapons carried by passing adventurers ring out. Loud vendors shout to sell their wares, and luxurious carriages weave through a crowd that quickly parts to make way for them. Many people wear heavy armor or flowing mage robes, while others sport incredibly strange attire, creating a highly diverse and eclectic mix. For the last few days, this capital has been flooded with people whose spirits are soaring high, but not his. He wears a cheap quality long-sleeved shirt and dusty gray pants, blending into the bustling crowd. Completely unnoticed, his mood matching the dull color of his clothes. Aside from confusion, there is a lingering deep fear entwined in his heart. He transmigrated just yesterday and has already figured out his current situation. This is actually the Overlord world, specifically the other world where the Great Tomb of Nazarick will eventually descend. The future, while others transmigrate into the real game world of Overlord after grinding and spending cash in Yggdrasil, descending invincibly or simply joining the Great Tomb. He has transmigrated directly into this dangerous foreign world with absolutely nothing. The only thing giving him a slight sense of peace is the timing. There are still over 4 years before the Great Tomb descends. He knows this because of the Imperial Tournament. Gazef, the future warrior captain, won the entire championship in this very arena, and today is the peak duel between the future captain, Gazef, and the legendary nail clipper, Brian. This clash has drawn in every single adventurer and commoner alive. The hype here is absolutely unreal. Are totally surging. Reading countless web novels finally pays off, helping him calm down incredibly quickly. He marks this as year -4 of the new calendar, a custom name he picked because the Great Tomb will eventually rule this entire world. As for understanding the local language, a universal translation law exists in this fantasy world, ensuring that every single race perfectly understands one another, almost like they all ate translation. Konjak reading the written script, however, is another matter entirely. He does not know why he transmigrated at all. 1 second he was lying down in his cheap rented room, then he arrived here in a complete daze. Talk about a total cliché. He is an orphan anyway, completely alone, so even if he suddenly vanished, nobody would ever care. Fortunately, this hyped duel between two famous commoners has flooded the capital with adventurers, and his plain shorts are not particularly eye-catching next to those who dress so loudly or strangely. After confirming his overall situation, he finds a shop to sell the only valuable item he brought to this world besides his worn clothes, a small gold pendant from around his neck. He gets 3 gold coins. That pendant originally cost 2 full months of salary. Meant for an ex-girlfriend he broke up with right before he could ever give it to her, so he just kept wearing it himself. The local currency runs at 169 copper coins to 13 silver coins to 1 gold coin. Above gold there are platinum, gem, and mithril coins. 3 gold for a 10-gram pendant is quite generous, but the unique cloison craftsmanship is the real prize for the greedy shopkeeper, who can likely resell it to noble for dozens or hundreds of times the profit. He knows this, but he simply cannot haggle. He spends 5 copper on cheap clothes and 1 silver on a short sword. He drops another 5 copper on some rye bread, leaving him with 2 gold, 11 silver, and 3 copper. He curses inwardly. 4 years of prep brings him 0 comfort. Whether it is 4 years or tomorrow, the Reist Kingdom and he are destined for ruin once the Sorcerer Kingdom war starts, leaving him with 2 paths: die in the slaughter or survive as a servant of the Sorcerer Kingdom. Looking up at the magnificent ancient royal city on the hill, he feels a creeping panic. Can his secret identity as a transmigrator truly stay hidden from the Great Tomb of Nazarick? To an anime fan, the Great Tomb is a power fantasy, but from the perspective of a normal human, it means pure despair. He feels 0 belonging to either side. His biggest fear is what happens to him once the Sorcerer Kingdom learns he is a transmigrator. The Bone King will not hesitate to eliminate anyone who poses a threat to Nazarick. He would probably send him to the Neuronist for torture first, or simply turn him into an idiot before finally ending him. He rubs his cheeks hard, but the stinging pain does not break the dream. Because this is no nightmare, he slumps against a shop wall, not feeling tired. Since his stamina and physical strength easily surpass his old, unhealthy body, his arms even show clean, defined muscle lines. This body is actually his own, but in a 16 or 17-year-old state, despite being 25 before he transmigrated. And the secret behind this is his cheat, a talent, a status panel only he can see flashes in his vision. Divided into two parts, the attribute sheet reads Player Tiong, Karma 0. Neutral with basic stats at 13 points, or 1%, totaling 7%, the ability sheet shows. His talent as player, level 0, with no experience. Passive is item box, active skills none. The talent is described as granting unobservable, unstealable characteristics, with no further details. The fewer the words, the bigger the deal, and that is definitely the case here. Easily guess what player characteristics offer. Talents do not exist in the Overlord game, but they are unique abilities the human race of this other world possesses, with a roughly 1 in 200 birth rate. Most are weak, useless in actual combat. But his player talent lets him level up, breaking all racial and biological limits, yet even at level 100, he still would not be a match for Bone King with his divine class gear, cash items, and world items. Remember, the Bone King is not the only level 100 monster in Nazarick, having stats at 13. Means his pure numbers already surpass ordinary people of this world, but these are not just game values, they reflect his actual body, and he can feel a unique energy inside, which in local terms makes him a magic chanter. The percentages represent the game's calculation method, the Bone King's overall value is 683.6%, plus an unknown. This unknown exists because his mana already broke the limit. The light novel mentions the average level 100 player has 1300 mana, and the Bone King has 1.5 times that maximum absolute whale tier. He researched Yggdrasil settings back in his past life, and the average attribute values for all races are identical before taking equipment into account, since equal caps maintain game balance. In theory, every level adds 13 points across the board, reaching 1300 per stat at level 100. But in reality, different classes raise different attributes. Warrior classes, they boost health, physical attack, physical defense, and agility, while caster classes boost mana, magical attack, magical defense, and special stats. Among the playable races, demihumans and xenomorphs have independent racial classes. Take the Dragon Clan, which burns 50 levels on 6 racial classes up to Ancient Dragon, leaving only 50 levels for job classes. Humans have no racial class restrictions, which is both a massive disadvantage and a huge advantage. All 100 levels go to job builds, letting humans catch up at the level cap, even the Bone King only maxed out his mana and special stats. He glances at the bustling crowd, seeing nobody paying any attention. He quietly pulls a palm-sized piece of rye bread from his pocket, which he actually retrieved from the item box where he keeps his original clothes and gold coins. The space is massive, but it still has a strict limit. Otherwise, legendary items like the infinite Hersack would not exist in Yggdrasil. He bites the hard rye bread, which locals call black bread, though it is just dark brown hard and pretty coarse. Still, it tastes okay. 1 copper coin buys 2 whole pieces, proving basic supplies are cheap. He is starving, and this deep hunger makes him realize his player status is just a talent. This is a real world. He can die. Yggdrasil features an incredibly harsh death penalty, dropping 5 levels instantly and deleting his account if levels hit 0. The cost can be reduced by resurrection. Magic or cash shop items like resurrection rings and staves, which he completely lacks. He doubts his player talent will auto-resurrect him. Talk about playing life on hard mode. So he touches the shortsword at his waist. Without any appraisal skills, he cannot see its data. But he knows it is just a basic weapon without any extra bonuses. He bought it not only for self-defense, but because touching it actually triggers a class prompt. The screen hums, informing him of weapon contact. The system displays shortsword base class. Information: warrior. Does he wish to take this class? He declines. This is not the first time this system prompt has appeared. It showed up when he bought the weapon. Simply holding a weapon for a short time triggers these class acquisition prompts. Back in the weapon shop, he touched a unique shield that triggered a mid-tier class called Black Guard. However, he cannot unlock it without the base prerequisite class Guardian. He excitedly touched every single weapon within reach under the Merchant's murderous glare, but only that shield triggered the Black Guard class. Every other weapon merely offered him the base warrior class, the reason he has not committed to any class yet is because level 100 is the absolute cap, since basic classes take 15 levels each. He absolutely needs both base paths to prevent easy counters. That eats 30 levels, only 70 remain. The margin for error is incredibly low. He cannot afford to make mistakes. He ponders his basic options. Without daring to commit, if not for the threat of the Great Tomb, he would not need to be so cautious. The only genuine threats here are the formidable true Dragon Lords. If he simply wanted to reach level 100 quickly, a shortcut exists since Yggdrasil allows taking 100 distinct classes across 100 levels, but that build would end up incredibly weak. Since arriving, he has been plotting how to close the gap. With Nazar, his master plan relies on two core strategies. First, master techniques unique to this fantasy world that did not exist in Overlord, like martial arts, the legendary Restized National Treasure, Razor Edge, and the Origin Ring. Second, obtain special class. These special classes are far stronger than high-tier jobs, carrying massive. They hold powerful skills or effects, some even exceeding super-tier magic. Only with a special class does he feel he can face floor guardians one-on-one. Suddenly, a shadow blocks the sweltering sunlight. He looks up at a young boy with short blonde hair and bangs that almost cover his eyes in a bowl cut, giving him a gentle look. His clothes look ordinary, but the material is much better than his cheap copper outfit. This is Ainz, destined to become a genius alchemist, one of the few humans even the Bone King holds in high regard. Ainz asks softly and sincerely whether he is having some trouble. The polite question makes him pause, half-eaten rye bread, squatting in a corner looking utterly despondent. He realizes he is pitied. He tells him expressionlessly no. Suddenly, a cold voice asks what Ainz is doing. An unremarkable little old lady walks over, only about 1.5 meters tall, with pale hair under a green headscarf. Hearing the name confirms it is Ainz, who possesses a dual variant class. Alchemist Genius and Pharmacist Genius, unique to this world. That genius tag grants extra skills, mastery beyond his current level range, and higher overall power. In a few years, he will use local herbs to brew the legendary God's Blood, the low-tier red potion from the game. Ainz also possesses the rare talent of unrestricted item use, letting him activate any magical item, including class mismatched scrolls, race-locked items, or even a guild weapon. To some degree, Ainz could pose a real threat to the Great Tomb. Ainz turns to Lizzie with an embarrassed look, calling her grandmother. She tells him that this is no place to play the Good Samaritan, and during the Imperial tournament, he should focus on buying and collecting medicinal herbs. Ainz scratches his short blonde hair and whispers, "Yes, grandmother." He finally understands why this grandmother and grandson from Arenal appear in the royal capital. He keeps his expression calm. Lizzie may look unremarkable, but she is the most famous pharmacist in Arenal and a genuine third-tier magic chanter with rank above 15, a powerful figure among humans. He absolutely cannot offend her. Her gaze falls on him, first on the short sword at his waist, then his slightly muscular arms, before she turns away expressionlessly and tells Ainz to leave. Ainz agrees, then pauses and turns back, telling him he is probably here for the gaze of Brian match. Noting that arena seats are very expensive, he offers him a water skin since eating dry rye bread without water can make someone choke. This guy is slightly annoying. Honestly, wouldn't such sudden kindness make you a bit suspicious too? Growing up as a lonely orphan, he has always struggled to accept random goodwill. He tries to refuse, but Ainz already has the bottle pushed toward him, forcing the container right into his hands. The sudden contact makes his expression change instantly, not because of the gift, but due to his system panel suddenly displaying info. Contact with a special dual base class holder has been established. Alchemist Genius and Apothecary Genius. Common class acquisition conditions are officially triggered. Acquired common class Genius. Does he wish to learn the class? Note this is a common class and cannot provide attribute bonuses. His arm trembles slightly. In Yggdrasil, combat classes are base, mid-tier, and high-tier or special, while non-combat are common classes, which can be understood as production classes such as pharmacist, alchemist, blacksmith, farmer, and merchant. In this new world, common classes include jobs that never existed in Yggdrasil, such as slave, maid, noble, or princess, automatically acquired through life experience. This happens even if they are unwilling, marking a fundamental difference from players. Without a single moment of hesitation, he commands the system to take the class. The class change succeeds immediately. The rare Genius Common class can substitute any job. It can transform into any basic or common profession based on his current needs. However, leveling this class up will not increase his base attribute points. It also offers no special traits after transforming. Still, he suppresses his excitement. Enphyra, noticing his sudden change in emotion, asks with deep concern if he is all right. He quickly thanks the boy, lets go of his hand, and takes the water skin. The young alchemist nods and walks away. He watches his back and breathes deeply. His eyes gleam with excitement. He never expected to obtain such an ultra-rare class. With this genius class, he no longer worries about base class choices anymore. His margin for error has increased drastically. To his knowledge, only one other person has it. Renner, the golden princess of Riestais, transformed hers into a princess class. Such a class is wasted on locals. Only a real player can unleash its true power. Feeling a tightly wound string inside him finally loosen, his despair begins to fade. He realizes he has also gathered another crucial piece of information. Contacting Enphyra triggered the requirements for acquiring a common class. Combined with weapon contact, he now has two vital clues about being a player. Since he only unlocked the genius class instead of alchemy, normal contact is completely safe. Simple physical contact with ordinary people should not trigger new class acquisitions. This only happened because Enphyra possesses an extremely rare dual genius trait. He holds genius modifiers for both alchemist and apothecary, which triggered the reaction. The system panel updates. His overall rank is 1 with 0 experience points. He has 1 level in genius, 3 skill points, and the item box passive. Active skills are empty. His talent is quite different from typical Yggdrasil players. In the game, leveling up lets a player choose 3 skills from their class. By level 100, a standard player would accumulate around 300 skills. Meanwhile, the Bone King mastered over 700 thanks to his special skill. Getting skill points without a dedicated skill list is definitely a major setback. Learning new skills will require other methods, but his path forward is finally clear. He crunches through dry rye bread, choking slightly before taking a swig of water. Under normal circumstances, he would never accept a drink from any stranger. Securing the water skin to his waist, he follows the crowd toward the capital. He decides to watch the upcoming duel. With over 4 years left, time is tight. However, gathering vital combat information now is worth every single second. Both duelists should be around level 20, approaching the human peak. Watching them clash will provide invaluable data on this world's native powerhouses. Gazef and Brain were already legendary figures long before this scheduled match. If his memory serves him right, Brain also possesses the warrior genius class. Listening to the crowd speculate about the winner suddenly sparks a brilliant idea. They might not know the outcome, but he does, and there must be betting pools. Even with low odds, placing a bet on Gazef will bring in some much-needed cash. Destitute and needing food, he asks a lightly armored young man for directions. He asks about betting pools, the local whispers, sizing him up. Is he an outsider? He nods. Yeah, just arrived yesterday. The guy calmly explains, no betting pools allowed here, period. This is due to Reneur's foresight. Surely, even an outsider knows her. She is the ultimate jewel of this kingdom, famous everywhere. When the tournament began, Reneur proposed banning all betting pools entirely. She argued that gambling insulted the nation's image and royal honor. Seriously, it disrespected the powerful fighters entering the ring. Though some nobles opposed her proposal, the king approved it. The young man crosses his arms, praising Reneur's merciful character. He steps back, emotionless, blending back into the crowd. He gets it now, the princess is a legend. Of course, while the ban works on paper, the underground thrives. Nobles will run them anyway, completely locking out regular citizens. His get-rich-quick plan, ruined, calling her merciful is a joke. On the surface, she plays the kind, innocent saint perfectly. She acts solely for her kingdom, radiating a flawless golden character. In reality, she is a total monster, even Albedo agrees. She views her mind as completely heteromorphic. The Blood Emperor hates her. Even the Dragon Queen, a centuries-old ruler pretending to be young, only ranks second in his heart compared to his hatred for Reneur. Meanwhile, the Grand Lunt royal city sits nestled deep within the capital. Built on a hill, over 20 massive circular towers connect its walls. These stone barriers completely isolate the common folk from the royals. West of the hill lies a massive arena hosting the annual tournament. It is a grand festival designed to display the kingdom's military power. Nursing a slight headache, he follows the roaring crowd inside. Stuck in the outermost row, the fighters look like tiny specks. This terrible seat cost him 5 silver coins, a total ripoff. It satisfies his curiosity, but seriously, who pays that much? The warrior captain and the legendary nail clipper are nowhere to be seen. For now, only a few random figures are preparing the central ring. The only elevated area is a luxurious viewing platform to the north. It is reserved exclusively for the kingdom's top nobles and royalty. But this tower dead silent, and it is killing the mood. This quietness spreads over the arena, instantly dampening the crowd's excitement. He shrugs, bored. Others might be confused, but he knows why. This tournament claims to find strong fighters and display national strength. In truth, it has always been a stage for proud nobles. They use the event to show off their elite, mercenary subordinates. Commoner participants are nothing but stepping stones for these wealthy masters. This is tied to their strict system of inheritance and titles. Even a temporary knightly title is a prize younger sons desperately chase. It grants them minor noble status and a very handsome salary. The royals cleverly use this to build a new pro-royal faction. Royal factions and this imperial tournament awards knight titles to standout noble children. For the past few years, participating nobles or their chosen fighters have been slowly beaten by civilian adventurers, causing massive outrage, fueling deep aristocratic resentment. But the rise of Gazef and Brian and their absolute sweep has turned this into a battle of two commoners. The elites must be absolutely furious. Once Gazef wins, he deserves a knighthood. Instead, the warrior captain position was created to counter this backlash. This clash became legendary because, right after this match ended, the tournament was shut down forever. The nobility demanded a second warrior captain. None of this concerns him, though. Compared to the Great Tomb, these are minor squabbles, no matter how angry the highborns get. This contest cannot be stopped. 10 minutes pass and his expression sharpens. He watches the future warrior captain and the nail clipper enter the ring. Stepping up, they shake hands, exchange quiet words, and back away by 20 meters, standing face to face. A heavy silence grips the entire arena. Suddenly, Gazef and Brian explode forward, their weapons clashing in a blur. Sparks fly instantly. His eyes can barely keep up with their movements. The swords themselves are completely invisible, only flashes of light remain. He leans back. These two are on a completely different level from normal humans. Their strength is impossible to truly feel through a screen. Witnessing it firsthand makes him realize the massive, uncrossable gulf between normal people and real powerhouses. At around level 20, he suddenly understands the future despair of the nail clipper. Facing shelter, that nickname isn't an insult, by the way. Back in the ring, a pale blue light flashes around Brian as he instantly teleports behind Gazef. Gazef rolls away, quickly creating space using a unique martial skill. This skill isn't in Yggdrasil. It is warrior magic requiring deep concentration. And the more these skills are unleashed, the more mental exhaustion builds up. It is a physical limitation never found in the game, bringing this closer to reality. While the power itself is impressive, human limits keep these skills holding back. Suddenly, his system panel hums with a notification. A new skill is detected. Flowing water acceleration. It requires a basic warrior class to learn. Requirements unmet, but his genius talent triggers a successful conversion. Conditions cleared. Will he spend 1 skill point to acquire it? Finally, he understands how his points are meant to be spent. Meanwhile, the battle grows fiercer. Glowing martial techniques flash as more skill data floods his panel. Weakness detection, instant reflexes, and strength boosts, all requiring warrior class, are converted through his genius skill. Each costs just 1 point to master. The silent stadium erupts as Gazef and Brian unleash a breathtaking offensive. Spectators cheer in absolute awe, struggling to track the incredible speed of both warriors. Even he is caught up in the excitement, though his focus remains locked on his system panel instead of the ring. Gaining skills simply by watching others fight is a completely broken leveling method. He assumed he would have to study and train like normal humans. But his genius class is exactly as he anticipated, if not better. With only 3 skill points left, he carefully plans. Look at that, a new prompt appears, skill discovered. Conditions not met, it requires a mid-tier swordmaster class. He already owns the Genius Warrior class, costing 3 points. He narrows his eyes, mid-tier swordmaster, he glances toward the arena. This skill belongs to Brian, who currently holds the upper hand in the fight. Brian holds 3 classes, including base warrior and mid-tier fencing specialist. Plus he has the swordmaster class, but another matter bugs him. In the game Yggdrasil, players must get the class first. But in this new world, people learn the skills before acquiring the class. They learn skills first, no requirements needed, the class comes naturally. A high-tier ninja class that typically requires level 60 has no limit here. Just learn the skills, and the class comes right along with it. It is just like the ninja sisters of the Atom and Tight rank Azure Rose. If he learns Rapid Slash now, can he unlock Swordmaster? Let us see. If it works, he has found a much better way to class up. It is far more reliable than simply touching random equipment. Middle and high-tier classes would suddenly become far easier to obtain. Even in this new world, high-tier class masters are extremely rare. They are incredibly rare. Special classes belong to the high tier but are completely different, with requirements that nobody can ever cheat. In the game, max-level players could get many high-tier classes, but only one special class. Nearby, the cheers grow louder under Brian's fierce onslaught. Gazef stumbles backward step by step, and Brian is ready to end things. He steps forward to end it, then, suddenly, Brian completely freezes. He flies backward, the crowd goes dead silent. What just happened? In that brief moment, something occurred that he could not see clearly. Very few in the crowd did. Then, his panel suddenly displays fourfold slash of light discovered, requiring a warrior class. His genius converts it. Learning conditions met for 1 skill point, he finally relaxes. History went exactly as he knew it. Gazef wins using his own developed skill, fourfold slash of light. The arena erupts. Everyone is chanting Gazef. He looks at his panel, choosing to learn Rapid Slash to test if he can unlock a class through it. Because Genius does not grant attribute bonuses, he needs a combat class. With Genius converting base classes, he can risk a mid-tier option. He learns Rapid Slash, consuming 3 of his precious skill points. Success, Sword Saint acquired. His theory about this world is correct. He can indeed use the New World method to gain classes. It is acquired automatically. Now he has 2 ways to do this. He can touch weapons, which works well for basic classes. But it is hard for higher tiers. Alternatively, he can spend skill points. This gives him plenty of options, as long as he has skill points. But automatic acquisition means he must choose his steps carefully. Thanks to his genius class, he has unlocked the Sword Saint. His level rises to 2, leaving him with 3 remaining skill points. With this leveling speed, no wonder players in the game took on 100 classes. 3 skill points per level means a maximum of 300 if he loses levels after death and levels up again. Can he gain skill points repeatedly in Yggdrasil? No, but here he does not know if he can exploit a bug. He shakes his head, not for now. He uses the remaining 2 points on instant reflex and fourfold slash of light, keeping 1 skill point in reserve. The panel updates hit points 23, physical attack 23. Magic attack 13, magic defense 13, total resistance 0, specialty 0, total 9.1% ability sheet, level 2, base class genius, 1 level warrior, mid-tier. Class Sword Saint 1 level, skill points 1, passive skills item box and slashing. Damage 1%, active skills warrior, instant reflex, fourfold slash of light, rapid. Slash, the Sword Saint class description says using slashing weapons such as sabers, swords, axes, and claws can increase slashing damage by 1% per level. Up to 10%. Each level adds 10 points to hit points, physical attack, and agility. Instant reflex forces his body back to the previous attack stance after an attack. Fourfold slash of light launches 4 slashes simultaneously. Attack power has a chance to be dispersed, and hit rate is reduced. Rapid slash is a class skill, quickly slashing forward, dealing 110%. Physical damage with a 10-second cooldown. Different classes have different tendencies for the values they increase. A mid-tier class providing only 10 attribute points means base classes are likely much lower. Fortunately, he has Genius. The mid-tier provides a passive maximum 10% slashing damage average. The Most surprising thing is the difference between martial skills and class. Rapid Slash has clear damage and cooldown, while Instant Reflex and Fourfold. Slash of Light have only basic descriptions, no wonder the Bone King is concerned about martial skills, a completely different system from Overlord. Warrior skills in Yggdrasil had cooldowns with no mana cost, while magic had no cooldown but used mana, hence the saying, mana is the true lifeline of a magic chanter. Martial skills here consume concentration, but his panel does not show a value for it. He will research that on his own. People around him suddenly stand up in unison. Several spectators look at him in surprise as he sits. He coughs lightly and stands up expressionless, since doing the same as everyone cannot be wrong. The standing motion is abrupt and his body involuntarily leans forward. He steadies himself by grabbing the shoulder of the spectator in front of him, a brown-haired middle-aged man with a full beard. Giving a fierce image, he turns displeased, clenches his fists, and asks gruffly if something is the matter, kid. He gives an apologetic expression and tells him he was a bit careless. The man glares fiercely to remember his face. Intending to cause trouble later, he prefers keeping a low profile. The reason he was unsteady is that his strength has significantly increased, and he is unaccustomed. The increase in basic attributes is reflected in his body in real time, like he has been training for a long time. He looks down at the arena to find Gazef and Brian have already left. The reason everyone stood is that the nobles and royalty in the Round Tower stands left first, and as commoners they had to show respect. He stands for a full half hour. The privileged classes annoying. As the nobles leave, the venue grows noisy again with discussion of the others watched with bitter envy, since both fighters were invited to the palace by the king. The brown-haired warrior spins around with a clenched fist and a sneer, ready to give the black-haired kid behind him a rough time, only to find nothing. He curses loudly about the kid running so fast, swearing to catch him, but he has no intention to wait around. Sitting in the outermost area, he has no idea how long it will take before his turn to leave. Even so, it takes 20 minutes to exit the massive ancient arena. The duel, an absolute eye-opening spectacle for the crowd. The excited energy only grows far more intense as people filter out. Outside the gates, an even larger crowd gathers, commoners who could not afford to enter but desperately wanted the results. Both Gay and Brian had massive followings since this was the first Imperial tournament with 0 nobles making the finals. Suddenly, cheers erupt as the spacious pathway becomes congested and the crowd clears a path for the elite team, Crimson Drop. His brow twitches and he focuses on the figure leading the way, semi-long light blonde hair with a striking red streak over his forehead, a sleek black jacket over crimson shirt resembles noble formal wear paired with silver-black trousers, lazy yet stylish. He waves to the crowds on both sides, drawing loud cheers from women, quite high profile. This is Azoth Indra, captain of Crimson Drop, an elite adamantite rank adventurer team in the Reist Kingdom and a high-ranked noble. He looks at the 4 figures trailing behind him, a middle-aged man in silver armor with a cold expression, carrying a massive greatsword, a magic caster in a light blue robe shrouded so completely that only his gender is clear, a longbow archer carrying a faintly shimmering gray bow, and a shorter, ordinary-looking man whose appearance and attire reveal absolutely nothing about his profession. The shorter man's low presence makes him suspect he is a thief-type class, though he doesn't know if this is the entire team. Crimson Drop was always mysterious in both anime and novels, with only Azoth ever appearing. The young man is most concerned with Azoth himself. Without knowing their levels, he guesses they haven't reached the hero tier. Level 29 or above, the only truly dangerous one is Azoth, his own strength is mediocre, likely the weakest here, yet he is their core. Since the team only exists because of him, not for his noble status but because Azoth possesses a suit of level 51 power armor, and that suit forcibly pulls his mediocre strength to the absolute peak of human combat power. Power armor cannot be manufactured by humans of this world. It must be a player legacy. He does not know if it came from the 6 great gods, the 8 Desires Kings, or the 13 Heroes Captain. Only Azoth himself truly knows. Besides Azoth, the only other with power armor is the Platinum Dragon King with a level 85 suit, and according to light novels, possibly more than one set, he holds far more than just that single player legacy. The other true dragon lords all know about the players from Yggdrasil. The waters of this world are deep. Without the overwhelming strength of the Great Tomb, they might have suffered major setbacks. The 13 heroes. Captain Riku, a player, fell incredibly hard. The Platinum Dragon extracted all player and Yggdrasil information from him, then announced to the world that Riku died young due to the trauma of accidentally killing companion and refusing resurrection. People believe that lie, but as a transmigrator. As a transmigrator, he knows exactly what players are really like, refusing. Revival is a total joke, and the Platinum Dragon King is lying, a pure manipulator. Meanwhile, Crimson Drop marches past, leading several other adventurer groups to loud cheers. He hoped to see the elite Adamantite team, Titan Azeroth, but he is left disappointed. He cannot identify the rest, though judging by their grand welcome, they are likely Orichalcum or Mithril. It is time to leave. His focus is on leveling his classes, but turning around, his gaze catches the final squad. Only 4 members, but striking, 2 men and 2 women. The most eye-catching are the 2 leading ladies. One has long black hair, cold blue eyes, a gorgeous face, and heavy plate armor. Next to her is a pink-haired cleric in split vestments that split high to reveal thigh-high black stockings and boots, drawing every male gaze. He instantly recognizes them. It is the 4 armaments team, though barely recognizable. The pink-haired cleric's scandalous outfit makes his eye twitch. The fashion here is truly bizarre, and it must be related to the legacy of the 6 great gods. Or the 8 Greed Kings, showing players left a decent mark on local fashion. Eventually, the 4 armaments will rise to mithril rank, but not quite yet. Look at the cool, black-haired warrior in full plate. One day, her hair will turn white. And not from age, she dyes it deliberately, though her roots still faintly shimmer gold. The warrior Skama is actually a natural blonde who dyes her hair black to get noticed. She later switches to white because the Bone King forms the legendary Darkness team to gather intel. Once they claim Adamantite rank 4, Armaments changes their style to avoid taboos, and because when people speak of Darkness, they instantly think of the Bone King's team. No one doubts they earned their legendary Meathil rank. Facing a Death Knight down the road takes real skill. These warriors are far from normal, though the other 2 male members leave no impression. Suddenly, a woman's panic scream cuts through the crowd, desperately calling out for Kia. The crowd presses tight as the adventurer party arrives. A small boy of about 5 or 6 gets shoved right out of the press. He stumbles directly into the 4 weapons path, completely losing his balance and falling. His arm scrapes the pavement, drawing blood as he cries out in pain. This sudden accident catches the eye of their cold leader, Skama, walking up front. Seeing a perfect chance to boost their fame, Skama turns with a calm look. He readies himself to ask the pink-haired Lilette for help, but before anyone speaks, Lilette rushes forward, the long split hem of her white priestly robes sway with her wide strides, her fair thighs and fishnet stockings are fully exposed, making the watching crowd gulp in anticipation. She squats with a gentle smile. She raises her hand over his injured arm, casting Cure Light Wounds. Instantly, soft white light mends the flesh. The boy stops crying. Still teary, he looks up at her smiling face and whispers his thanks, but then he shrinks back. Pure terror takes over. He doesn't know why, but that smile is terrifying. Skama, clad in full plate armor, clanks over. She bends down to inspect the painful wound. But in reality, she fiercely whispers for Lilette to drop that creepy, predatory glare. She won't let her ruin their party's brand new reputation. Ignore the rumors. Lilynette simply sticks out her rosy tongue, licking away the saliva. She whispers disappointedly that unripe fruit is what truly makes the mouth water. The boy shrinks back again, unable to understand them but feeling their terrifying presence. Meanwhile, the other 2 male members of the 4 weapons team exchange a weary sigh. Suddenly, from the dense crowd, a middle-aged woman squeezes out. Rushing over, she sighs in relief to see her boy safe, bowing and thanking them repeatedly. Though noblemen look down on adventurers, commoners respect them deeply. Skama and Lilette stand, returning to normal. They wave it off righteously, saying no thanks are needed, but our protagonists' attention is completely elsewhere. The moment Lily cast her healing magic, his system panel flashed. It was a Tier 1 healing skill, requiring the base class of Priestess or Priest from rank 1 to 7, though current conditions are unmet. Genius activates. Conversion successful. Requirements met. He just needs to consume 1 skill point to learn Priestess. He stands stunned as a strange light flickers in his Eyes, he has no desire to keep watching this and walks away quickly to find a secluded spot to think. The scorching midday sun beats down on him, and based on his prior inquiries, it should be around May, yet this intense heat feels closer to midsummer from his past life. This is critical because the Great Tomb of Nazarick will descend roughly 4 years around mid-July. That leaves him with a tight 4-year window. But he cannot rush his build. The arena sits near the royal city at the foot of a heavily forested hill, with plenty of vegetation and trees separating it from the crowded commoner slums on the outskirts. Looking down from above, like a vibrant green belt, he finds a shady spot to sit and opens his panel. Total rank 2, base class genius rank 1, warrior, priestess, and mid-tier priest. Swordmaster rank 1, 0 skill points. Passives include item box and a 1% slashing boost. Actives are instant reflex, 4-fold slash of light, rapid slash, plus his new magic spell cure light wounds. It costs 5 magic points to restore 10 health points. Since he learned the spell, Genius lists priest and priestess as convertible base classes, but what truly surprises him is the priestess base class, which is female. Exclusive in Yggdrasil with slight differences. Priestess lanes more toward magic-oriented casting with powerful healing bonuses for advanced tiers. The fact that a female-only class can be converted by Genius is far beyond his wildest expectations. Does this mean he has some female character buff letting him acquire classes normally restricted to women? This opens up incredible possibilities mentioned in the novels. After all, the special classes he currently knows about are the Bone Kings, Eclipse Cocytus' Ashura, Shaltyr's Valkyrie, and Mara's Apostle, Demi's Origin of Evil, and Victim's Martyr. Albo also has a class whose name is never detailed, giving her the ability to transfer lethal damage directly to her armor up to 3 times. Combined with a resurrection item, an enemy would have to defeat her 4 times to truly kill her. Besides these, there are also World Champion and World Disaster, which he does not need to worry about now. Instead, he filters down these 6 options. First, he excludes Eclipse, Origin of Evil, and Martyr. Eclipse requires mastering all classes in the necromancy system up to rank 95. Such an extreme build is too easy to counter. Origin of Evil requires the demon race, while Martyr is restricted to angels. The remaining choices, Ashura, Valkyrie, and Apostle of Disaster, do not suffer from such. The remaining classes, Ashura, Valkyrie, and Apostle of Disaster, don't have such useless restrictions. Faced with harsh requirements, his first target is the Apostle of Disaster. Mare is a dark elf with no racial classes. His character build is unique. It consists of 100 job class levels, meaning there is no racial prerequisite. Luckily, he knows quite a bit about Mare's classes. His genius talent helps. This talent gives him a margin of error to easily derive Apostle of Disaster. He can even waste some mid-tier classes. Now, Cocytus possesses the Usura class. But looking at his stat sheet, Usura has no clear connection to his build. He suspects it was obtained through a special item. Then there is Valkyrie. In the anime and light novels, only Shaltyr and Zeshchi have this class. Both are female, thus his guess, it must be female only. This gender lock meant he could only target the Apostle of Disaster first. But now Priestess is here. This changes things. He likely has a female buff. Valkyrie is possible, plus Shaltyr's Valkyrie class build is much clearer. Clearer than Mare's Apostle of Disaster, at least. Taking a deep breath, he recalls Shaltyr's details. He starts sketching them on the ground with his finger. Besides the Bone King, she is one of the most prominent characters around. Since she appears constantly, plenty of information has been revealed. Her level structure, 20 racial, 80 job levels, totaling 100. Her known classes include Valkyrie Lance level 5 and Cursed Knight level 5. She also has 10 levels in Priest. 2 more classes appeared in novels. Blooddrinker and Cursed Caster, both are clearly advanced classes. Blooddrinker has an exclusive skill called Blood Pool, shown during her epic battle. And the novels mention that Cursed Caster comes with a huge drawback. A total frenzy, she goes completely wild whenever she touches blood. Remember her first fight with the nail clipper guy? She went totally berserk. That was because of this class, though the anime never explained it. In this game world, classes with drawbacks are usually incredibly powerful. They use these drawbacks as restrictions. Now, 5 levels in Valkyrie Lance, plus 5 in Cursed Knight, and Cursed Caster leaves 55 levels unaccounted for. That is barely any info. Luckily, our main character is a science student. He grins, this feels just like solving the puzzle games of his past. He quickly circles 2 classes on the dirt, setting Priest aside entirely. Priest is just a basic class, since he knows very little about. Blooddrinker, he benches that one too. Only 2 advanced classes remain. They must have their own independent prerequisite class paths, following Math Logic. He can use these unknowns to derive the final answer. An unknown level 15 base warrior, a level 10 mid-tier warrior, and 5 levels of Cursed Knight totals 30 levels. Now, do the same for Caster. With another 30 levels ending in Cursed Caster, that equals 60 levels. Add 5 in Valkyrie, 5 in Blooddrinker, and 10 in Priest for 80. Perfect. Shalter's build suddenly makes sense. Blooddrinker is an advanced racial class. Unique to vampires, the only outlier in her build is the Priest class. Now the only other person with the Valkyrie class is Zeshi. From the Theocracy, Zeshi is the only powerful character whose build is known. She has 10 levels in Fighter, 10 in Barbarian, and some master classes. Fighter 10, Lesser Valkyrie Almighty 5, Weapon Master 7, Rogue 1, and Assassin 5. Executioner 10, Priest 10, High Priest 10, Inquisitor 10, 11 classes totaling 88 by level alone. Zeshi has reached the top tier of this world, but her build is exceptionally chaotic. It mixes 3 paths, warrior, rogue, and faith-based magic. Casting making her overall strength much lower than any actual player of equal level. Her Lesser Valkyrie class is basically a degraded version of the real thing. This happens because she fails to meet the true prerequisites, an incomplete phenomenon. Unique to this new world, for advanced classes like Ninja that require level 60. Local people can obtain them simply by learning the required skills first. But special classes have incredibly strict prerequisites, he figures. Zeshi obtained it indirectly through her talent, but because of those strict requirements, she could only acquire a weaker version. Interestingly, the only class both Shaw and Zeshi share is Priest, as the trump card of the Theocracy. It makes sense for Zeshi to have it, but Shelter is undead, despite being a vampire. She possesses this incongruous Holy Priest class and did not even level it to the maximum. The only reason for doing this is to fulfill a specific condition. A sharp light flickers in his eyes as he presses his palm heavily into the ground. Got you, Valkyrie. Yggdrasil is based on Norse mythology. Valkyries originally had a different concept. They were called Valkyria, choosers of the slain, essentially synonymous with evil, before gradually evolving into holy figures who choose those fallen warriors. Valhalla clearly has a connection here. The requirements for Valkyrie are likely being female, the base class Priest, and the advanced Cursed Knight class, Cursed Knight rather than Cursed Caster, because Valkyrie is heavily warrior specialized. He brushes dust from his hands, exhales heavily, and wipes away all the seemingly chaotic handsy characters he scratched, although no one in this world would recognize handsy. One can never be too careful. The advanced Cursed Knight class in the game settings requires level 60 plus specific prerequisite classes, but in this new world, one can obtain advanced classes directly by learning those skills first. He props his hands on his knees, stands up, brushes off the dust, and mutters that if his memory serves, there is indeed someone in the Baharath Empire who possesses that Cursed Knight class. Having understood the special class requirements, although still not 100% certain there is at least a chance to try, he feels slightly more at ease. That target in the Baharath Empire won't disappear, so his next step is leveling before heading to the Baharath Empire to obtain Cursed Knight with a clear goal. He no longer hesitates, heading straight toward the Adventurers Guild. For a player, the most vital thing is hunting monsters to level up, but that is in a game. In this real alternative world, especially since his level is currently low and weak, safety must come first. The massive Imperial tournament has finally ended, and the crowds of commoners and adventurers will soon begin to leave. He has no official status in this royal capital. Currently, because of that high-profile duel, no inspections are being carried out, but once the capital returns to normal, an outsider like him will easily attract attention. Plus, the capital has no suitable places to hunt monsters. His next plan is heading to Irel, a border city of Rhyastes, but he still knows far too little. Dangers surely await him. Seems highly likely. Aaron heads toward the local Adventurers Guild, hoping to find an adventure group also traveling to Irel. In the capital, aside from luxurious noble estates near the center, the largest structures are the Adventurers Guild and the Magic Casters Guild in the Commoner District. finding them is not. Difficult though their location shows, neither is highly valued by the upper echelons. The Riesti's kingdom highly venerates brave warriors, while the Baharuth Empire emphasizes magic, largely due to Fluter Paradine, the chief court wizard and national ace who has surpassed the hero realm, standing as one of only 4 outliers among humanity, having lived over 260 years from the first emperor to the current Bloody Emperor. Fluter possesses the high-tier class Immortal and obtained longevity through a magical ritual using it. When Aaron heads to the Baharuth Empire, there is another high-tier class he needs to plan for. The Adventurers Guild is built in the Outer Commoner District, a conspicuous square tower-shaped building 4 stories high. People constantly stream through the main entrance. Aaron pauses briefly before stepping inside, where a bustling, glamorous atmosphere immediately greets him. The interior is unexpectedly spacious, with no extra decorations or furniture, just a wooden floor and a massive chandelier above. Directly facing the entrance is a relatively large front desk where staff communicate with several adventure parties. Several gazes turn toward Aaron as he walks in, but withdraw quickly after a brief look. With his shabby, plain appearance, he does not look like a powerful adventurer or a wealthy client. He deliberately dresses like this to avoid attracting unwanted attention from the request boards on. Oathwall's loud, noisy voices drift over as one party debates a request with low rewards. After the Adventurers Guild 20% cut, debating if a gold rank escort mission over a long journey might earn them a gold rank promotion. Aaron walks directly to the front desk, queuing up behind other parties, recalling general adventurer info. The guild divides parties into 8 ranks: copper, iron, silver, gold, platinum, mithril, orichalcum, and adamantite. There is no clear strength division because any joining party starts at copper regardless of their actual strength, as long as they are not deliberately hiding their power or holding back. The rank shows basic level. Fortunately, Aaron does not wait long. The receptionist is quite young, a teenage girl with slightly curly brown hair and brown eyes, about 16 or 17. She politely asks the name of his adventure party, showing no unusual expression at his plain clothing or foreign appearance. Aaron softly replies that he does not have a party and simply has a few questions. She thinks she understands and pulls out a yellowed paper form to register him as an adventurer. He waves his hand, explaining he does not plan to register, but wants to ask if there are merchant caravans or adventure parties traveling toward Isle. She pauses, looking again at the short sword and water skin at his waist, and a look of realization appears. She asks if he traveled from a border city to watch the Imperial tournament, calling it impressive that he traveled so far alone. 5 copper coins, she says, raising her rough palm. Honestly, this catches him completely off guard. If he could actually read the script of this world, he would not have come to ask. Over 10 years of schooling in his past life, and yet he is still completely illiterate now. She maintains a serious expression, stating that this is the Adventurers Guild, where non-members must pay for consultations. Information always requires a fee here, proving there is absolutely no such thing as a free lunch. This massive, borderless organization operates completely outside the control of any nation. Its raw power goes far beyond just employing exceptionally strong and capable adventurers. The secret is an invisible information network built by its countless members. Outsiders must pay heavily for this intelligence, though some secrets cannot be measured in gold. Naturally, this makes the ruling classes of various countries deeply distrust them. Yet they still collaborate in secret, and behind it all lies the slain theocracy. The receptionist, a brown-haired girl, quickly notices his sudden hesitation. Her lips curl into a slight smile as she suggests that registering would make those questions completely free. She looks at him expectantly, making his brow twitch in annoyance. He asks if he can register alone. She warns him that adventuring is always highly dangerous. Technically, anyone can sign up, but safety usually requires at least 2 people. She lowers her voice, admitting there is no hard rule. He asks the price. Just 1 silver coin, she says with a playful wink, and he reaches into his pocket. He pulls a single silver coin from his item box. He places it directly on the counter, making her eyes light up with sudden, greedy excitement. Not so fast, he says, pressing his hand over the coin to stop her. He only has 2 gold, 6 silver, and 3 copper coins left. With such limited funds, he refuses to waste any money on a useless registration fee. Besides, he has 0 time for guild quests. Disappointed, she slumps. She points half-heartedly toward an escort request that is bound for the city of Ainz. Despite the long distance, it only pays the minimum gold rank fee, making the client incredibly stingy. She expects a silver rank party to take it. Seeing his ignorance, she offers a tip. He needs double consent to follow, from both the client and the party. He looks in the direction she points and realizes talk about an incredibly small world. It is the exact same four-person party he passed earlier, who were discussing their gold rank push. He finally releases the silver coin, sliding it over, and she grabs it with a grin. She tosses it in her cash box, returning 8 copper coins onto the table. Thank you, he nods politely, sliding the copper change into his pocket as he turns to leave. A highly complex, peculiar expression crosses her face as she watches him. Most adventurers are incredibly crude, but this quiet young man was surprisingly polite to a receptionist. He seems poor yet unexpectedly refined, and actually he is quite handsome. Those deep brown eyes and rare black hair actually make her cheeks flush with sudden embarrassment. She wonders if he is a foreigner. Meanwhile, he just keeps walking. Finding a quiet corner of the massive hall, he leans against the wall with a sigh. Things are more troublesome than he thought. It is not that simple. Getting consent from both of those parties is basically impossible for a complete outsider. The client wants absolute safety, not extra baggage, but reaching Ainz is non-negotiable for him. The great northern forest of Toj and the southern Cass Plains are ideal leveling grounds. But this world is not a game. Monsters do not just respawn. To raise his rank, he must venture into highly dangerous areas packed with aggressive monsters. Ainz borders Riest and Baharath, making it highly convenient for him. Staying within Riest would keep him safe, but he needs real battle experience to grow. Traveling with a party also helps him avoid unnecessary local trouble. His high-end knowledge is useless here. He needs practical, basic information. He has too little of the basics. If his power were immense, it would not matter, but his rank is too low, based on what the brown-haired receptionist said. The long distance to Yggdrasil requires a gold rank, and his pockets cannot afford to hire one. Compromise: Yggdrasil is at the easternmost edge, while Yggdrasil is within Marquis Reven's territory with a major noble city in between. Going to Yggdrasil first, then. Yggdrasil should be significantly cheaper. The only problem is wasted time, and time is what he lacks most. Suddenly, a familiar voice with a hint of nervousness asks Miss Daya whether anyone has accepted the request posted. Yesterday, the brown-haired receptionist's calm voice answers that his request was just taken by a silver rank party, and she asks if Ainz is satisfied or wants it changed. The slightly nervous voice quickly says there is no need, as they have no special requirements. Mammon looks up in surprise. Ainz was the one who posted the request to Yggdrasil. His grandmother is a magic chanter who can use third tier magic, so why hire an adventure party? While Mammon is thinking, Ainz has already made contact with that silver rank party. Looks like the request has officially been accepted. Mammon thinks for a moment, then stands to walk toward Ainz. Over there, Ainz speaks softly, saying the journey ahead might be a bit strenuous. The leader in black light armor pats his chest cheerfully and says they have done this kind of mission several times and can guarantee both his and Ainz's safety. But Ainz's introverted personality shows. Awkwardness appears on his face, wanting to say something but keeping quiet. That is not what he meant. Suddenly, a voice comes from behind, greeting them. Ainz turns dazedly. The four next to him had noticed Mammon walking over but had not paid attention, assuming he was passing by. Unexpectedly, Mammon comes directly to them. The four men's eyes simultaneously fall on him, observing closely. They had just accepted a quest, and although it was unlikely anyone would attack a client within the guild, vigilance was still necessary. Ainz's bright blue eyes look at Mammon with surprise. He clearly recognizes the person from the road. Black hair is too rare, making him easy to recognize. Mammon softly thanks him for the water skin with a smile, and Ainz says there is no need to be polite. Gladly helping, he awkwardly scratches his head, also noticing Mammon's water skin. Mammon speaks to Ainz while looking at the four adventurers, asking if he overheard correctly that they are heading to Yggdrasil, and if he could join. Everyone is startled. Ainz hesitates. He does not mind, but it requires his grandmother's approval. The four show no emotional change, but their blank expressions are themselves an answer. Mammon had anticipated this. He had noticed earlier a slight problem with the team's overall balance. Mammon admits his words were a bit abrupt, then raises his palm to softly cast Cure Light. Wounds, a soft white light emerges from his palm, emitting a warm glow. The four adventurers, previously expressionless, simultaneously light up, looking at him. With surprise and astonishment, the faith-based spellcaster even gasps. The healing magic he suddenly cast also draws attention from many in the guild. Hall, in the fantasy universe of Overlord, professions divide into warrior and spellcaster main categories. Warriors subdivide into combat, defensive, archers, rogues, and so on. Spellcasters into arcane, faith, spiritual, and other systems. Spellcasters who possess healing abilities in this world are faith-based magic casters are highly valued because adventuring is incredibly dangerous. Battles are guaranteed during quests. Once injured, even minor wounds can become fatal. Without treatment, injuries lead to amputation. Adventurers always carry healing tools. Potions are incredibly expensive, but they have no choice. Having a healer changes everything. A healer saves the party a fortune and dramatically boosts their survival rate. They are far rarer than arcane users. In the game, they all just consumed mana. But in this world, just like martial skills, require extreme focus. Faith casting demands the same. Once a healer appears, they get recruited by elite teams, leaving weaker parties behind. Meanwhile, Tang seems completely oblivious to their shocked stares. After casting, he casually draws his sword, telling the party he also has solid combat skills and won't be a burden. To prove it, the short sword effortlessly spins and flips across his palm. He looks like he has undergone years of highly specialized, elite sword training. Before witnessing the grand tournament, his swordplay was incredibly clumsy from zero real practice. But after unlocking the Sword Saint title, he feels a deep, instinctual familiarity. It feels like he has wielded and trained with bladed weapons for generations. Seeing his fluid movements, the group realizes he is a capable fighter. He smoothly sheathes the short sword back at his waist and looks up. He eyes Enphyra and the adventurers, noting their shocked, satisfied expressions. Tang exhales softly, relieved that this party is a perfect fit. Meanwhile, Enphyra cannot help but widen his eyes, loudly exclaiming how incredibly amazing Tang is. He never expected a random traveler. He helped to be a rare healer. Wielding high-level magic and sword skills, is this what a true genius is? Looking at him, you would never guess. His grandmother was completely right about not judging books by their covers. Just then, the captain walks over. He is blonde, around 25 years old, with curly whiskers and a cheerful vibe. Wearing light chest armor but nothing below, he carries twin swords at his waist. Tang pegs him as a light warrior. Smiling, the man introduces himself as Dasari. He introduces his three close companions, Bask, Lure, and Rand, who nod in turn. They do not state their classes, but their gear lacks any magical elements. Lure and Rand look almost identical with matching blonde hair, likely twin brothers. Both wear silver shields on opposite arms, while Bask serves as their archer. Captain Dasari proudly explains that their party name is Rock, and for good reason. True to their name, they specialize in defense, showing him massive enthusiasm. It is a warmth they never showed their client, Enphyra. Tang understands why. He simply introduces himself as Tang. Smiling, Captain Dasari says they have no objections. He glances over at Enphyra, implying it is fine if the client agrees. Enphyra does not hesitate for a second, clearly fascinated by Tang's sudden presence. He wants to consult his grandmother first, then tells Tang to follow him. He turns and hurries toward the exit. Captain Dasari suggests they follow him. It is a good chance to meet Enphyra's family. He looks at Tang. He laughs heartily, asking if Tang is coming. Tang nods and Dasari leads the way out side by side. The other three follow closely behind them, forming a protective shield around him, since he has revealed his healing magic. Other parties are already itching to make a move, but Rock moves faster. His actions make many surrounding adventurers curse inwardly. At the desk, Dee watches them leave with envy and sadness, whispering that he is amazing. No one could tell from his plain appearance, wishing her younger brother was like him. She returns to a professional smile, attending to other adventurers. Outside the guild, a cargo wagon is parked, an old wooden carriage piled high. The bottom layer holds crates of various sizes, with the top covered in dried, straw-like plants. Approaching the wagon brings a strong, pungent scent of herbs. At the very front sits an old woman holding a whip, wearing a light green headscarf, none other than Lizzie. They spot Infea talking to her, clearly explaining what just Happened in the guild, they do not approach immediately, waiting near the back of the wagon. Before long, Infea walks over with a bright, happy smile on his face. Grandmother agreed, Infea says. You can come along, but she wants you to demonstrate healing magic in front of her again. No problem, he says softly, following Infea and his grandmother, whom he knows well, is far more reassuring than randomly following some random caravan or party. Plus, Lizzie is a magic caster capable of using third-tier magic. He follows Infea over to Lizzie. Her wrinkled face and white hair make her look extremely old. An expressionless face and protruding jawbones make her look difficult to get along with. In reality, anyone who could raise Infea to be so gentle cannot be a bad person. Where are you from? She asks expressionlessly. Black hair and dark brown eyes are incredibly rare. Across the kingdom, he is stunned, as this is not easy to answer. Forget it, it is a trivial matter, she says, narrowing her eyes and pointing to the black horse pulling the wagon, telling him to use healing magic on it. The horse looks quite old, with deep indentations worn into its neck and back. From years of hard pulling, the hair on its hindquarters is sparse, showing red marks. Without wasting a single word, he raises his palm at the horse and casts Cure Minor Wounds. He can clearly feel the mana inside his body suddenly draining away. A soft white light envelops the horse, and those red marks completely fade. The horse shakes its head and snorts in comfort. He exhales, although he does not feel tired. His inner mana is almost completely drained. This first-tier spell requires 5 mana, added to his earlier casting. At the guild, he has already used it twice, leaving him with only 13 mana. If asked to cast again, he cannot. His status panel shows that his MP has not recovered a single point yet. His automatic mana regeneration is much slower than he originally expected, likely because he does not have a magic-related class. Right now, though his genius ability can mimic any base class, it clearly does not include the stat bonuses or effects from other classes. Lizzie nods, squeezing a smile onto her wrinkled cheeks, saying it seems their speed returning to Rantel can be increased, declaring they should set off. She stops paying attention to him and calls out to Infea. After the boy climbs onto the wagon to sit beside her, the whip cracks against the horse. Wooden wheels press against stone bricks as they set off with a squeak. The rock party, and he can only follow closely behind, clearly uninvited to climb aboard. Fortunately, the fully loaded carriage cannot travel very fast. It is May 17th, 4 years before the Common Era. On his second day of transmigration, he leaves the royal capital of Riest. Most of the region. The terrain is mostly plains, bordering the sea with 2 massive port cities to the north and west. This kingdom is populated almost entirely by humans, with barely any demihumans in sight. Locals absolutely detest other races. Meanwhile, the slain theocracy has been waging a fierce war with the elven kingdom down south. From time to time, captured forest elves are trafficked to Riestize in Baharuth for over 300 gold coins, while skilled ones fetch over 1,000 gold as living magical tools. 3 days have flew by since they left the capital. All this valuable information was casually dropped by the Swords of Darkness during their chats. The adventurers seem eager to build a strong connection, answering almost any basic question thrown their way. Through this, Mammon slowly gathers some basic common sense. The road remains completely peaceful, likely because they are traveling through the very heart of the kingdom. After several days of constant travel, they get comfortable around each other, and Mammon finally realizes why an elite third-tier magic caster like Lizzie still hires adventurers. She simply needs the heavy manual labor. The massive cart of rare medicinal herbs has to be unloaded and laid out to dry daily, a chore that naturally falls squarely on the Swords of Darkness, prompting Captain Peter to vent his frustration to Mammon in private. Still, Mammon is not staying idle. While the herbs dry and the party rests at night, he casts low-tier healing magic on their draft horse. This is not just about patching up minor whip scratches. According to Lizzie, healing magic does more than just close wounds. It actually revitalizes a portion of the target's stamina. Seeing this in action makes him realize that spell mechanics in this world differ from the old game. While continuously casting and draining his mana, he carefully monitors his passive mana recovery rate, which sits at roughly 1 point per hour. Night stars blanket the sky, far brighter than anything he ever witnessed in his past life, glowing with starlight and brilliant moonlight. Beside the crackling bonfire, Enfira sits quietly, studying wild herbs, his hands sniffing and occasionally tasting them. Meanwhile, old Lizzie stands Near the wagon inspecting their cargo, on watch Captain Peter and Ninya keep a tight perimeter guard. The other two party members have gone out to scout. They are camping in the open wilderness. Captain Peter mentioned a nearby village where they could lodge, but old Lizzie flatly refused, wanting absolutely no detours. The carriage carries a crate of highly valuable herbs destined for Yggdrasil. They need to refine them immediately, so they chose the speediest route, bypassing several towns. Normally, this dangerous pace would spark severe adventurer complaints. Since their contract is a pure partnership, any reckless client behavior allows them to drop the quest mid-mission, even with a minor guild penalty. Acting as unpaid laborers on a perilous path is a recipe for a massive clash. But once the party learned that Lizzie owned Yggdrasil's premier apothecary and is a legendary herbalist, their complaints completely evaporated. Instead, they became far more respectful and attentive. Talk about being exceptionally practical. Mammon sits by the blazing fire, watching young Enfira examine his specimens. The boy holds a tiny, slender root in his palm, takes a quick nibble, and immediately spits it out, explaining that this is bitter root. Apparently both look completely identical on the outside. Seeing Mammon observing him, the young herbalist clarifies that this bitter root is a perfect double for plum root. Only taste reveals the truth, while bitter root is ideal for steeping in wine. To draw out its detoxifying properties, it remains highly sought after base for antivenom potions, while the plum has a sweet hint, making it a perfect base for healing potions. Infuria is usually shy, but talking about herbs, his eyes brighten as his voice grows much more confident. He nods, appearing to listen intently. In reality, he wants to see if he can acquire the pharmacist class by learning about herbs. Still no system alerts. Talk about a slow grind. Infuria asks if he is genuinely interested in herbs. He tells him he is indeed somewhat interested. Grandmother Lizzie snorts and walks over with hands behind her back, telling Infuria not to show off his shallow knowledge. Tasting with the mouth is the most basic and lowest method of identification. His nose still works after all. Infuria lowers his head in shame, replying that he understands. He looks away, unsure if the scolding carries a hidden warning for him. In this other world with heavily restricted knowledge, his behavior of constantly asking Infuria about herbalore lately is somewhat inappropriate. Lizzie tells him not to be nervous. She may be a bit petty, but she will not get angry over something like this, even if it is true. Talk about awkward. He, as an outsider, knows anything he says right now would be inappropriate. She tells him bluntly not to think he can make healing potions just by understanding a few herbs, since he has some talent in faith-based magic. He should not waste energy elsewhere. Martial skills or other pursuits are a waste of time. He realizes she is giving well-intentioned advice and quickly thanks Mrs. Bear. Her heavily wrinkled face smooths significantly. She seems to enjoy that title. Bear is indeed her surname. Learned while talking to Infuria, though he knew all along. 2 sets of footsteps approach. It is the younger twin, Lure, and the archer, Bask, returning from scouting. With their return, the other 2 rock members relax slightly. A weak groaning sound comes from behind Lure. He carries a wild boar weighing over 200 caddies, looking exceptionally relaxed, saying that their luck is good and dinner is sorted. An arrow pierced right through its forehead, yet it is still not dead. Rand stands with hands on hips, looking at the boar's bleeding wound, and praises Bask's improved archery. Bask claims it is just a wild boar. With a light chuckle, Lure walks to the bonfire and drops the beast with a heavy thud. He then tells him it has 1 breath left, pointing at a spot on the neck. Quick kill. He thanks Lure and rises from the bonfire and walks toward the boar, because Lizzie wants to return as quickly as possible. Their route does not allow resting in towns. She never lacks food herself, but that does not include the rock party or him, so besides rationing their carried supplies, the group also hunts, which is easy enough for adventurers. During this journey, he had mentioned wanting to deliver the finishing blows to captured prey, publicly explaining he intended to become an adventurer but had not seen blood yet to acclimate. The rock party suspects nothing. He truly does not look like an adventurer, since even the lowest rank would carry tools, but he has none. They can tell that much, so whenever they catch a beast, they leave 1 final breath for him. He draws his short sword and walks over to the twitching boar, raising his blade without hesitation to plunge it where Lure pointed. Out the sword tip enters, and a gentle twist fades the beast's final breath. Blood pools cleanly without spraying, exactly why Lure told him to strike that precise spot. His screen flashes with 15 experience points, bringing up his character status sheet. It displays rank 2 with 95 experience points, just 5 away from a level up. It is faster than expected from just hunting weak beasts, but his rank remains incredibly low. As his rank rises, leveling up will get harder. Liz's satisfied grin has already vanished because she realizes he did not take her advice to heart. He pretends not to hear. In this strange world, once a human hits level 29, they enter the legendary hero realm, becoming peak powerhouses of human nations. Even with talent and massive effort, the maximum limit is around level 40. That cap is not about effort, it is the limit of the race itself. In fact, the human outliers had to abandon their humanity to achieve it. Yet level 40 is just a starting point for him. He also knows that. When facing the Great Tomb of Nazarick, no ordinary human can stand as his companion. After first transmigrating to the royal capital, he agonized over his path. Should he choose a warrior class or a magic path instead of specializing early? Without allies, relying solely on magic or physical combat makes him vulnerable. Now Lore grins at his clean, efficient movements, thoroughly impressed. He lifts the boar, telling him he is far more skilled than before. But he warns him true monsters are different from ordinary wild beasts. There is a learning curve to everything. He smiles faintly, picking up a ceramic jar. He empties his water skin into a ceramic jar borrowed from Infuria, then sets the container over the campfire. It was meant for herbs but was currently idle. So he borrowed it as a kettle. Infuria remarks that he really loves drinking hot water, having watched him boil clear river water for several days. Not that he loves it that much, he just sits cross-legged smiling. He explains it is a hometown tradition, so Infuria understands and drops the subject. In this world, different regions have incredibly varied beliefs and customs. Prying is best avoided. Right now, the dominant faith across most nations centers on the 6 great gods. Humanity here owes its very existence to the first batch of descended players. Most of the anime and light novel events take place within human lands which seem vast, but the continent itself is absolutely massive. Humans are actually huddled in the northwestern corner, while the central regions are dominated by demihumans and monsters, where humans are slaves or food. The lifespans and level caps of demihumans and monsters far exceed those of fragile humans. Logically, humanity should have gone completely extinct. In fact, 600 years ago, humanity was on the absolute brink. Then the first batch of players, known as the 6 great gods, descended. With overwhelming power, they saved humanity, moving them to the northwest. Because of this, they became the ultimate figures of the mainstream faith. Sadly, except for the god of death, the other 5 were human and died within a century. The last surviving god of death was also hunted down and slain 500 years ago, right after the 8 Desires kings descended. Compared to those protector gods, these 8 Desires kings behaved much more like typical players, completely ravaging the entire continent to satisfy their greed. Legend says that although most of these 8 Desires kings met a grim end, even if they were demihumans or xenomorphs, they held plenty of goodwill toward humans. So even now, despite being vile existences, no legends paint them as evil. Within human society, 600 years ago, the 6 great gods descended. 500 years ago, the 8 Desires kings. 200 years ago, numerous demon gods appeared and the 13 heroes emerged. There is also other unknown information about players who likely descended on the central continent, and then the Great Tomb of Nazarick will descend. Almost every 100 years, players descend into this other world, calculating from this the true dragon. Lords probably know players are about to descend again, compared to the suddenness and limited information of previous eras. This time around, the true dragon lords are prepared. However, compared to the 6 great gods, the 8 Desires kings and the sole player among the 13 heroes, the overall strength of the Great Tomb far exceeds those prior groups. Suddenly, a brilliant idea strikes him. If he can get the true dragon lords to clash with the Great Tomb early, he might be able to reap benefits as a quiet bystander. Even if they lose, it would only benefit him, conveniently depleting the Great Tomb's resources and most of its strength. The 200 Jin boar is quickly butchered by Lure and Rand. With incredibly skillful movements, all the internal organs are removed and buried in a small pit. In his eyes, it is a waste. The Rock Party and Furia seem completely uninterested in organs. They clearly do not have a habit of eating. Awful, he does not say much. Do not be fooled by how these people appear like low-level minor characters in an anime, whether it is the adventurers or Furia and his grandmother. None of them are actually poor. Soon, the clean boar meat goes over the campfire. Layers of fat drip as a fragrant aroma fills the air. Captain Dasari walks over, sits beside him, and converses in a hearty tone. He listens quietly, nodding occasionally while the captain does most of the talking. Furia is the same, highly interested in these adventurer experiences. Captain Dasari speaks of exciting anecdotes mixed with boasting, but he still gathers incredibly useful information. The next day at dawn, everyone sets off. The journey ahead gets tougher, especially as they draw closer to the border. The angelic mountain range stretches as far as the eye can see, finally appearing in everyone's sight. The relaxed atmosphere quickly becomes serious. Attacks by monsters gradually grow more frequent, though most are weak demonic beasts. He gains quite a bit of experience. The angelic mountain range separates Raisti from Bahar, a natural barrier. Captain Dasari says 400 years ago, the two were actually the same nation, but for unknown reasons, that original massive country was completely destroyed and split. Suddenly, Bask the archer guarding the rear gives a sharp warning, his ears twitching with a solemn expression, warning them that something big is coming. The other rock party members freeze in shock. Lizzie pulls the reins, bringing the carriage to a sudden halt. Meanwhile, Furia, sitting on the carriage, grips the wooden railing with nervous hands. He notices the rock party's expressions shift and his gaze tightens. From their travels, he knows Bask possesses a hearing talent far beyond ordinary people. His role is long-range firepower and intelligence gathering. For him to be this nervous, he has clearly heard it is something terrifying. However, the young man remains relatively calm. The real powerhouse in this party is not the adventurer team, but grandmother Lizzie. Suddenly, piercing screeches ring out alongside rustling sounds from the tall grass as figures rush out. Standing under 1 meter tall, they have dark green skin, scrawny bodies, pale pupils, and ferocious faces. Around 10 goblins leap forward, most clutching wooden clubs and basic weapons. They are no real threat. Goblins are weak, fast-breeding, and dull-witted creatures. One-on-one, any cautious average adult could easily defeat one, not two. Mention rock by adventure ranks. An average silver rank member equals 7 to 10 goblins. Of course, the diverse variants of their race are the real danger. Hiding behind them, his gaze slips past the trash mobs toward the dense forest. Heavy footsteps draw near. Honestly, this next beast is on a whole other level. Incredibly oppressive. He warns everyone to stay alert. Captain Dasari draws his twin swords and lets out a low, grim shout. Following a beastly roar, a massive figure, over 2 meters tall with a bulky, heavy build and dark yellow, spiked skin, strides forward. It is an ogre. No, wait, 2 giant Bask Grim. The goblins gain a sudden surge of courage, waving their clubs and rushing the carriage. They need to clear the small fry first. Captain Dasari charges ahead, raising his long sword and hurls it forward. The blade impales the leading goblin right in the chest. Pale green blood splatters across the dirt. Dasari steps on its chest, reaching down to rip his weapon free as blood and shredded flesh spray. Then, swinging his offhand blade, he cleanly decapitates another goblin with a single stroke. The Rand brothers charge next with raised silver shields, knocking goblins down and slamming their armor. Crushing them, Bask draws and fires steadily, quickly killing 2 of the goblins. In moments, 6 of 10 goblins are dead. The young man takes a deep breath. Not out of fear, but slightly nauseated by the carnage. Along the way, they had faced scattered monster attacks. It is not his first battle, but as a former modern person, the discomfort remains. The fishy, metallic scent of blood, severed goblin heads rolling away, and crushed bodies make him grimace. This fantasy world feels brutally real. Yet, besides the nausea, he feels a strange, sudden spark of excitement. He now understands a bit more about the 8 desires kings who once brought chaos to this continent. While he stands momentarily dazed, the remaining 4 goblins are quickly finished off. Now, the 2 ogres roar angrily and charge from the dense forest. The earth shakes beneath their heavy strides. Captain Dasari barks out orders while retreating, telling Lure and Rand to stall the left beast while the rest of them focus on the right one, targeting its soft eyes and throat. Understood, Captain. Lure and Rand raise their shields together to charge the left monster. Bask provides cover, drawing his bow to shoot an arrow toward the right ogre's eye. The beast raises its broad, rough Palm to shield its face, the shaft sinks deep but fails to pierce cleanly. Through, grunting about human food, the sharp pain grabs its attention. It rips. Outcasts it aside and roars, charging Bask, nodding in approval. Captain maintains an exceptionally grave look. Given Bask's archery skill, the shot barely scratched it, proving how incredibly thick-skinned and tough this beast really is. Captain Dasari halts his retreat, planting his feet and crossing his twin swords. To trigger his haste technique, a faint blue light flashes and his power surges. He leaps forward, appearing before the ogre at a speed far exceeding before. He swings his crossed swords heavily down onto the ogre's chest. 2 deep gashes appear. Despite the massive strike, only a bit of blood seeps out, hardly a serious injury compared to the giant beast's massive physique. The ogre roars in pain and swings a massive fist at Captain Dasari. Dasari quickly raises his swords above his head to block, but the crushing force still breaks through, numbing his arms, nearly forcing him to drop his weapons. In this desperate moment, Bask shouts. Twin shot, 2 arrows whistle sharply through the air. The ogre, about to press its advantage, suddenly feels its vision go dark, followed by intense pain. It clutches its blinded eyes, falling to the ground and rolling in agony. Captain Dasari retreats, making some distance, breathing a sigh of relief while thanking Bask. Bask replies, "Now is not the time for thanks. While the beast is blind, they must finish it off, especially since the Rand brothers' defense is about to collapse. These monsters are incredibly thick-skinned, still alive even after ice shots." The young man looks at his panel, regarding the martial skills used by Rock, making sure not to waste any skill points. These creatures are not exceptionally strong, yet the gap between demihumans and humans is incredibly obvious. Ogres are just a subspecies of trolls, and compared to trolls with their rapid recovery, these beasts are simply a bit more thick-skinned. This minor in-game talent, combined with their massive size in this world, results in Rock being completely suppressed. At the exact same level, it is virtually impossible for humans in this world to defeat demihumans or monstrous beasts. No wonder. Before the players arrived, humanity was pushed to the absolute brink of extinction. In Yggdrasil, human players could slowly bridge that racial gap after level 50 through class builds, but here, humans can only ever reach level 40. Dasari exhales, shaking his somewhat numb arms, and walks with a sharp gaze toward the thrashing ogre. Aiming directly for the heart, he raises his left longsword and thrusts it down with sudden, explosive strength. Red blood with a faint green tint sprays everywhere. The beast's body stiffens as its thick arms slump. Seeing one monster finally dealt with, everyone breathes relief. Captain Dasari looks toward the Rand brothers, reaching to pull his sword free before standing up to help. However, the ogre that should have been dead suddenly twitches, letting out a struggling cry and reaching a thick arm to grab Captain Dasari. Talk about a brutal counterattack. This sudden change catches everyone completely off guard. Bask's face goes pale as he screams a warning. Even Dasari's reaction is a beat too slow. He never expected his strike had failed to kill the beast. Though he still maintains an adventurer's vigilance, blue light flashes around him. His speed suddenly surges. The ogre's desperate grab toward his waist misses, but catches his ankle, squeezing with brutal force. Bone shatters with a sickening crack, and Dasari screams in agony. Bask's face goes completely white. At the same time, the Rand brothers fighting the other monster instinctively falter when they hear the horrific scream. Their tight coordination instantly breaks. Lure is sent flying by a devastating kick, already at disadvantage. Rand, now fighting completely alone, is in grave peril. Bask can only anxiously fire arrows to support the endangered warrior. However, while an ogre's intelligence is rather low, it is far stronger than any goblin. This ogre, seeing its companion blinded, is naturally on guard, shielding its face with one hand while striking with the other. It looks like Rand will not hold. Facing this, although the young man looks serious, Tang has no intention of stepping forward. With a powerhouse present, why take unnecessary risks? A pale-faced old woman inside the carriage stares nervously at Lizzie. Looking at their current skill, aiming for gold rank seems like a joke. Lizzie speaks completely expressionlessly, but she still slowly raises her finger. A brilliant blue-white light suddenly blossoms into life, a lightning bolt. The electric surge shoots straight forward, instantly severing the ogre's massive arm. It frees Dasari's trapped ankle, then blasts toward the other monster without slowing down. As the blinding blue light fades, a massive scorched hole is left behind. The second ogre stands charred black, tilting backward before collapsing with a heavy thud. A scorched smell drifts through the air, the very beasts that cornered the party. Head back, the rock party into a corner, are instantly obliterated by one spell. Complete silence falls over the area, even Dasari stops his painful howling. Tang's system panel flashes, Tier 3 magic discovered. It requires a basic mage class and a rank from level 15 to 21. Though Genius could bypass the class, Tang is still far below the level requirement. Talk about a reality check, the monsters they couldn't even scratch were cleared in seconds. Mages capable of Tier 3 magic usually belong to the elite platinum ranks, or even mithril rank, while the rock party is barely scraping by. Tang is the first to break the heavy silence as he hurries to Dasari. Seeing the crushed ankle, Tang kneels and tells him he is going to remove the hand. Dasari nods in a daze, his face flushing red from the intense agony. Tang pries the rough, yellow ogre hand off the leg and tosses it aside. He takes a close look at the lower leg, now completely twisted and mangled. It is a severe, shattered fracture, a permanent disability in his previous world. Fortunately, magic makes the impossible very real. Tang casts light healing, enveloping the leg in a soft white glow. Under the magic, the flattened limb slowly begins to puff up and reshape. Sensation returns with a sharp throb of pain, making Dasari gasp in agony. He bites his lip to hold back his screams as the glow slowly fades. With the leg looking somewhat normal again, Tang casts another light healing spell. By the end, the leg looks fully restored. Tang tells him it looks fine outside. But the bone inside is still shattered. 2 simple spells only offer temporary fixes. Complete recovery will require more mana and a few more casts later on. Since Rock's team has been good to him, Tang is not about to hold back. Dasari is completely drenched in sweat, his lips pale. He gasps out a thank you, but Tang tells him there is no need. Bask arrives supporting the injured Rand brothers, looking relieved as he glances at Tang. Tang asks if the two are all right, and they assure him they will live. Lure tries to grin despite his pale face, but he clearly has internal injuries. After getting kicked away, he likely has some broken ribs and internal bleeding. Tang promises to heal them both as soon as his mana reserves recover. Rand laughs. Suddenly, Bask's ears twitch and he spins toward the fallen ogre. He asks if the one-armed monster is still breathing, his expression turning cold. Tang's eyes light up. Before Rock can even move, he steps toward the beast. He drives his short sword deep into the existing wound in its eye socket. Ethan thrusts his blade deep into the beast's brain, twisting hard until it goes limp. His brutal efficiency stuns the Rock squad, though he barely registers his own growing ruthlessness. A mental notification flashes before him. He just gained 300 experience points. Surprise flashes in Ethan's eyes as the massive X boost triggers a level up. He is now rank 5. Nearby, Enphyra leaps down, asking if everyone is okay. The Rock squad members look at each other before turning respectfully to their client. Facing Enphyra, Captain Dasari insists they won't delay the rest of the journey. He pushes himself up, struggling to stand upright on just one good leg. Enphyra frantically waves his hands, trying to explain that is not what he meant. He stops when he sees the squad looking past him in absolute awe. Lizzie approaches, telling them to rest. Dasari solemnly agrees, addressing her as Milady. His one-legged salute looks comical, but he cannot afford to offend her. A third-tier magic caster is far beyond what a normal party could ever cross. Especially since she just saved them, the other members hang their heads in shame. Being rescued by the client they were hired to protect is deeply humiliating. They never expected someone so powerful to actually need a hired escort. Unless, of course, she only wanted them for heavy lifting from the start. Ignoring them, Lizzie stares toward the deep woods where the monsters emerged. This vast, dangerous mountain range borders the fortress city of Irantal itself. Lizzie mutters that it is time to cull these wild monsters again. Goblins breed fast, and alongside other monsters, they regularly raid these borders. Because of this, the local Adventurers Guild constantly posts extermination quests. Walking back to her carriage, she coldly announces their departure without looking back. They leave in 1 hour. The relieved adventurers quickly scramble to prepare. Knowing their client wields high-tier magic lifts a massive weight off their shoulders. Still, the pressure is immense. Enphyra politely offers to examine the captain's injuries. Dasari is startled but quickly nods, allowing the eager young alchemist to help. Nearby, the injured Rand brothers prop themselves up against each other on the dirt. Bask opens his pack and retrieves 3 precious bottles of blue recovery potion. He passes them out, watching his comrades drink the bitter liquid with grimaces. Bask can only shrug helplessly at their pain. Standard potions are weak compared to real magic, but they stabilize the wounds. Since Bask is the only fighter still completely unhurt, he stays on guard. He walks back to the battlefield to secure proof of their kills. He slices the ears off the 10 goblins and 2 ogres, bagging them. These bloody trophies will serve as proof to claim their bounty at the guild. Meanwhile, Enphyra finishes examining Dasari's badly mangled leg with deep curiosity. His blue eyes flicker with deep thought and growing intrigue. Ethan notices the shift in his gaze. This makes the captain quite nervous. Any permanent damage could easily end his career as an adventurer. Surprisingly, the outer flesh healed, but the bone underneath remains shattered. Enphyra looks up at Ethan excitedly, noting the clear difference in healing methods. He bolts back toward the carriage, muttering to himself about magical properties. Ethan is left wondering if healing magic and potions truly differ that much. A thoughtful look crosses his face as he compares them to game mechanics. In his old game, Yggdrasil, healing items all just restored health, but things might be different here. The recovery potions in this fantasy world operate on a completely different level. Just then, Feria runs back with herbs, making Tang look over at Lizzie in the carriage. She does not seem to care at all, as if this whole situation is completely fine with her. Feria had previously mentioned studying recovery potions for years, though he never got to practice. Now, with Rock injured, this is his rare chance to put his theory to the test. Feria sets the bundle down, selects a few plants, and prepares to cast his skill. Whispering the word pharmacology, a soft green light wraps around the plants. They decompose into fine granules, and he repeats this process with other ingredients. For about 10 minutes, he skillfully blends them in exact, precise proportions. Looking up, Feria asks Tang to help. Tang agrees, having considered these jobs before. He will not refuse. Following instructions, Tang brings over the ceramic jar kettle. Pour the water inside, Feria says, carefully holding the prepared medicinal powders. Tang pours and Feria throws in the powders before invoking his alchemy skill. He picks up the jar and shakes it gently, faint light glowing from his hands. Now look at this right before their eyes. The liquid transforms into a pale green, murky solution. Dasari asks if this is a recovery potion, his eyes wide with shock. He believes only master pharmacists can witness this, but Feria just shakes his head. Seriously, he explains, this is actually just an alchemical mixture with some healing effects. Brewing a true, complete recovery potion is a far more complicated process. On top of that, if they leave this mixture sitting around, it will spoil. It becomes unusable and slightly toxic, meaning it must be used immediately. Drink it, Captain Dasari, he says, handing over the potion to ease his pain. It only offers slight healing, but Feria hands it over with a bright smile. Dasari and the Rand brothers are struggling with ragged, pained breaths. Their agonizing expressions return. If they had known, they would have taken it sooner. Feria quickly brews more potion and hands the cups to the Rand brothers. After finishing, Feria shows clear signs of absolute and heavy exhaustion. Brewing 3 portions is quite a burden. Feria wipes sweat from his forehead. Get this, he notices Tang staring blankly, but Tang is entirely focused on his system panel. The 2 skills he just witnessed, pharmacology and alchemy, triggered a reaction. Tang spends 2 skill points to learn them. His status panel immediately updates. His physical attack and agility both sit at 53 now. His total progress reaches 16% as his entire ability sheet updates. He is rank 5 with experience at 100 to 400. His list of classes updates, now showing him as a sword saint. His passive traits include item box and a 4% slashing boost. His active skill set includes rapid slash and light healing magic. Learning pharmacology and alchemy, plus the ogre kill, raised his rank to 5. Pharmacology costs 1 mana, processing raw herbs into highly effective powders. These effects enhance based on his pharmacist rank. Alchemy also costs 1 mana. This skill allows him to produce magical solutions with various useful effects. These results scale with his alchemist rank. He looks at his job skills. Clarity washes over him. These production abilities act like special classes. So Tang invests all 3 newly gained levels directly into Sword Saint. He mastered a class tier that boosts his base attributes. This leveling process is a lot like Yggdrasil, where players can freely allocate their stat points in the Real world though, anyone who wants to level up a warrior class must constantly hone their martial skills through training, while magic users must study, read spell books and meditate. To level a class, you have to learn its abilities. Hearing Faria's sudden question, he looks away from his panel, pretending to snap out of it, saying he was just surprised to see potions being made this way. Faria modestly replies that it is nothing, and he still is not very good at it. Then looks at him with excitement, explaining that compared to recovery potions, healing magic is far more impressive. Recovery potions rely on herbs to treat injuries, whether low quality or high grade, they only speed up wound recovery. He shows interest and begins discussing healing potions with Faria in a low voice. Faria does not shy away but is very happy to exchange ideas. As the grandson of Arantel's best pharmacist, he will be known as a genius pharmacist in the future, even though that is 4 years away. Faria's current insights into recovery potions already surpass those of most pharmacists in this world. Back in Yggdrasil, the conditions for a player to win battle against another player ultimately came down to 4 things: information, rank, equipment, and resources. Information is always first, its importance going without saying. The battle between the Bone King and Shaltir demonstrated the advantage of information to the absolute limit. Shaltir was an NPC specialized in combat, the class build countering undead, yet the Bone King used his information advantage to scheme her to death, putting on a show in front of other floor guardians. Of course, if it had been a random encounter, Shaltir would have most likely won. As for rank and equipment, those are self-explanatory. In terms of rank, he can reach level 100, but currently has no way to deal with high-tier equipment. With the local technology, it is impossible to create divine class gear. The only existing divine class items are the legacies of the 6 great gods and 8 greed kings, making them incredibly hard to obtain. As for resources, including consumable items like recovery potions, magic scrolls, crystals, gems, ornaments, and various tools, he has no way to compare to the entire Great Tomb of Nazarick. The reason he constantly discusses recovery potions with Faria is that he wants to produce them himself. After resting, the party sets off again. Boz carries Captain Dury on his back. The Rand brothers can walk on their own after using potions and alchemy solutions. Faria keeps preparing various medicinal powders and alchemy solutions to speed up Rock's recovery while using this progress to understand their effectiveness. Meanwhile, he waits for his mana to recover, using healing magic to treat Captain Dury's compound fracture. For a time, Rock had become a heavy burden. 2 days later, a massive city appears, Arantel, with 3 layers of thick walls. This border city looks more like a massive military fortress, or rather, as the central city at the borders of Riestais, Baharuth, and the Slain Theocracy. It was originally built to fortress specifications. Since entering the border regions, they haven't encountered many people, likely because they took a shortcut. Now close to Arantel, the number of merchant caravans and more adventurers appear as Lizzie drives the carriage toward the city. Guards step up to halt them for inspection, but recognizing Lizzie, they hesitate. Their faces soften with respect. "Ah, it is Master Bera, let them pass." Border security is tight, demanding strict inspections to keep out enemy spies, especially those from Badger. Lizzie nods slightly, cracking her whip to move. The carriage rolls forward. Rock and Tang, following closely, are also waved through. They skip the security check, though each must pay a 2 copper entry fee. Arantel charges everyone. Outside of the capital's ports, this is the most prosperous hub. Trade thrives here, thanks to its proximity to Tob Forest and Cass Plains. These perilous zones naturally draw a massive crowd of adventurers and hired swords. Inside, the streets are packed with countless carriages ready to load and leave. Tang immediately senses that the sheer number of warriors here is absolutely staggering. It is a wild density he never witnessed, even back in the capital. Instead of the decaying, oppressive air of the Empire, Arantel feels alive. Pure energy, now that they have arrived inside Arantel. The escort job for Rock is officially over. The next logical move is visiting the local guild to turn in the request and collect their payment. Miraculous healing. Thanks to Tang, Dasari is fully recovered. He exchanges a sheepish look with his team as they approach the carriage. Dasari bows low to Lizzie, thanking her for keeping them safe along the road. He admits they were completely useless during the journey, refusing to take a single coin of the commission. If she had not defeated the ogres, the entire squad would be dead. Lizzie stares at Dasari, her expression blank, before turning her gaze toward Rock. A rare smile softens her wrinkled face. Fine, she says, I accept. Keeping the extra gold clearly pleases the old woman. Dasari thanks Enphyra once more. Remember to visit me, Tang, Enphyra calls out, waving as the carriage rolls away. Tang's calculated efforts paid off, earning him the boy's trust. I will, Tang promises. A friendly wave, but his eyes remain entirely cold. Honestly, Tang is quite grateful to Enphyra. He did not just copy his genius, gaining both his rare pharmacist and alchemist talents. Yet staying close means Enphyra might eventually leak secrets about his power. If that happens, Tang's hand instinctively drifts down, right to his short sword. Resting at his waist, his fingers brushing the hilt, but the cold metal jolts him back to reality. Is he just too paranoid? Exhaling, he turns to Rock. Tang announces it is time to part ways. We only survived because of you, Tang. If you ever need anything, just call. The elder brother thumps his chest proudly. Tang politely counters, saying he learned quite a lot from their experience. But Dasari suddenly reaches into his tunic, pulling out a heavy black pouch. Coins clink sharply as the man steps forward and shoves it into Tang's hand. Before Tang can even process the heavy weight, he instantly recognizes the contents. Gold coins. Confused, Tang tries to push the heavy pouch back. I do not have much on me, so please do not look down on this tiny, humble gesture. Dasari insists with a deadpan look, shifting his weight to stomp his foot. Without Tang's help, his leg would have been completely ruined. Given the crushing force of the ogre's attack, standard potions would have failed. He was out in the wild, completely unsure of the distance to the nearest city. Even if they scrambled to find a faith magic chanter capable of advanced healing. Even if the broken leg eventually healed, the damage would have been permanent, leaving him with side effects that would end his adventuring career for good. Seeing the captain's firm, non-negotiable attitude, Tang falls silent and stops arguing. Fine, he'll accept it. Tang nods to Rock and turns to leave, slipping away. As Tang disappears, Dasari's open expression twists in pure agony. For his wallet, it's a bitter, total loss on this entire commission. Bass grumbles aloud while Rand and Lure release a heavy sigh. They had played nice, hoping to recruit Tang once the job was done. But the moment they reached Yggdrasil, disaster struck, nearly wiping them out. Instead, they had to be saved by Tang, leaving them far too embarrassed. To recruit him, Dasari asks why their heads are hanging so low. Sure, they didn't recruit Tang, but they're friends now. Future opportunities will come. They just need to keep grinding and reach gold rank as soon as possible. Dasari slaps his cheeks, flashing a cheerful grin that the others quickly copy. Meanwhile, the barrier grandmother and her grandson depart in their carriage. Lizzie steals a quick glance at Nefaria, who sits there looking completely dejected. She sighs, shaking her head. Due to Nefaria's introverted personality, he lacks friends. That boy Tang is only slightly older, but he has incredible magic talent. Having a talented faith caster around as a peer would have been perfect. But as Lizzie drives, she warns Nefaria to keep his distance. She advises him to avoid contact with that Tang kid unless absolutely necessary. Startled, Nefaria tries to protest, but Lizzie cuts him off instantly. She knows what he wants to say, but her old eyes see right through people. Tang might act gentle and easygoing, but it's all a carefully crafted facade. In reality, he has built an impenetrable wall deep inside his heart. The warm smile he shows is nothing but weary acting for outsiders. Honestly, a kid like that is wrapped in deep, dangerous trouble. Nefaria straightens up, cheeks flushing as he desperately tries to argue. Lizzie simply sighs, snapping her whip against the horse to silence him. She asks if he noticed how the Rock Squad acted after those ogres died. Nefaria is stunned. He remembers the immense respect they showed his grandmother. But Lizzie isn't talking about Rock, she's talking about Tang's behavior. Nefaria recalls how Tang showed respect, yet something about it felt hollow. Only now does he realize Tang's polite smile was completely different. It felt like empty, poor acting, though he still can't explain why. Deep down, that boy doesn't care about this old woman at all. Lizzie speaks flatly, and Nefaria opens his mouth but can find no words. May 30th, the 4th year before the new calendar, following the bustling crowd. Tang walks down the wide main road, stepping over the sunken flagstones. Wear and tear from countless travelers has left the ancient path uneven. Yet the clean stones show only faint patches of moss along their edges. The surrounding, orderly building complexes are mostly light-colored. They feature dark, European-style roofs. He heads toward the Adventurers Guild. Arriving in Earl, he immediately needs to find a decent place to rest. He spent 13 days on the road since leaving the capital, and leveling is now his top priority. Tob Forest and the Cat Plains are perfect. He targets Tob first, though his ultimate goals extend far beyond simply slaying random monsters. His current skills simply cannot harm the undead of the Cat Plains. Stocking supplies is next, and he silently thanks Rock for teaching him survival tips. Skipping the guild entirely, he finds an inn close by. Elite high-tier adventurer teams do not even have to pay when staying at these places. Having traveled on foot for over 10 straight days, he notices a change. In his past life, his legs would be ruined, but now he only feels slightly tired. There are 0 blisters, proving that leveling up significantly strengthens his constitution. Taking a quick drink, he heads toward a hotel across the street. He walks past a few blocks and finds a small hotel directly across from the busy guild. The place offers shared rooms for up to 6 people at 1 copper daily. Alternatively, a private double room costs 5 copper coins per person each day. These rates target traveling adventurers, as local commoners rarely stay in hotels. He decides to book a double room entirely for himself for a total of 2 days. It costs 20 copper coins. He then pushes open the heavy wooden door. The creaking door swings open, revealing a modest room measuring roughly 12 square meters in size. 2 simple wooden beds sit inside with a single nightstand placed between them. Aside from a private toilet, the standard of living here operates at a medieval level. However, the active presence of magic prevents it from being a typical medieval society. On the main streets of Ainz, magical lamps function just like street lights. They burn with perpetual light. Still, his long journey had one major annoyance. He absolutely loathes the toilet situation, especially since local paper production is incredibly primitive. Nobody bothers to improve papermaking because convenient 0-tier magic exists instead. By spending just a tiny fraction of mana, a massive amount of paper can be made. Rock earned a high income, meaning his standards of living were quite decent. He clears his throat to interrupt his thoughts, recalling he learned this trick from Rock. Dasari mentioned that most magic casters only use these spells for daily convenience. They rarely bother actually learning them unless a very specific, personal need suddenly arises. Usually they just buy scrolls, which raises an incredibly massive question. His system lets him copy skills by spending points after seeing others cast. If magic is unleashed from a scroll, could his system still let him learn it? That is still unconfirmed, but he needs cash too. Every upcoming purchase requires funds, and he needs proper gear before traveling. At the very least, he needs defensive armor and several reliable weapons for the journey. It will dull quickly, and he definitely cannot afford high-tier magical weapons. Instead, he must stockpile standard swords, especially since basic survival items are fairly cheap. However, the moment magic is involved, prices skyrocket to terrifying levels. For instance, a simple cooling cup costs 150 gold. Magical weapons exceed 1,000 gold, putting them far out of common reach. With his meager savings, he can only afford to buy decent, ordinary weapons. Along the road to Ainz, he carefully contemplated how to earn gold. Asking Henry about brewing healing potions was definitely his first step toward making a fortune. He knew there was no time to waste on gathering herbs and studying, so he also looked into 0-tier magic. Fortunately, the money Dasari gave him solved his current predicament. He pulls a bag of gold from his item box with 20 gold inside. Adding his savings, he now has 22 gold, 4 silver, and 4 copper coins. He puts them back, reaching out to rub his temples. There are too many problems to think about right now. Walking over to the bed, he collapses backward onto the mattress. He had been sleeping outside with his nerves constantly on edge. Finally, a real bed. What he needs most is some quiet rest. Turning his head, he glances out the window at the bright afternoon sun. By his estimation, it is probably just past noon. This inn is close to the Adventurers Guild. And since it is daytime, he can finally rest easy. Closing his eyes, he drifts off. In the evening, a cool breeze blows through the window, making him bolt upright in panic, wondering if it was just a nightmare. While wiping cold sweat from his forehead with a heavy sigh, he dreamt of the Bone King standing right before him, those cold scarlet eyes staring down, and he curses under his breath at the terrifying memory. After all, the Bone King is a transmigrator just like him, a fellow player in this world. He tells himself there is no Reason to be afraid of a guy like that. Taking a deep breath, he slaps his own cheeks to clear his head, then gets up to look out at the dark evening sky. Pushing the window wide open, the cool night breeze rushes inside, instantly calming his racing mind. He really had not expected to sleep all the way until evening. The small inn is a simple two-story European-style building with his room on the upper floor. Looking out, he spots a quiet alleyway in the neighboring street. The wooden balcony railings outside look ancient and completely unstable. Any thief with basic climbing skills could scale the walls and reach his room in seconds. Using the walls on either side, he watches for a moment, sighs, and shuts the window. Let's face it, cheap inns cannot really stop thieves anyway. So he washes his face and heads downstairs. Out on the streets, the crowds have thinned out considerably. Only heavily armed teams of adventurers remain. Wandering around, he decides to head toward a clothing shop the innkeeper suggested. His outfit has not been washed in 10 days and is smelling pretty sour. Plus, he needs to pick up some spare clothes for Tob. When he finally steps out, he carries a heavy bundle while wearing a dark robe that covers him completely. 3 silver coins spent in total, with the main robe costing him 1 silver and 7 copper, and the rest just basic cheap linen. The reason for buying a nice robe is his upcoming Mage Guild visit, where looking like a beggar is a bad idea. Kingdom, every major city hosts branches of the Adventurers Guild and the Mages Guild, but unlike the grand headquarters in the capital city, these local branches barely train any spellcasters, instantly sending anyone with real talent to the capital since traditional priest customs leave the royal elites completely indifferent and funding incredibly tight. These local branches must survive by crafting and selling magic items and scrolls. The local Mages Guild is a simple 3-story building with a totally boring exterior. If he had not asked around, he would have walked right past it. Unlike the crowded Adventurers Guild, this place is completely empty, no guards at the door. Though nobody would dare break in anyway, he approaches the heavy wooden door and right as he goes to push it open, a quiet chime rings from a fist-sized bell hangs above the doorway, a faint red glow flickering inside it. Right then, the front door swings open completely on its own, and he recognizes the magical chime. It is definitely a magic item, so he decides to step inside. A soft, bright light floods through the doorway, making the inside look absolutely dazzling. The grand hall is styled entirely in deep red and pitch black, a stark contrast. Rich wooden panels cover the walls, while the floor is painted black. Under 100 square meters of space, the real building must be partitioned off. 6 hanging lamps line each dark side. It glows softly from the ceiling, illuminating an otherwise empty hall in the evening. Only 2 middle-aged men in robes sit at the counter. The elder dozes off, resting his chin lazily on his hand, while the younger mage intently watches him enter. Stepping forward quietly, he explains that he wants to buy some magic scrolls. Scrolls are way cheaper than those 1,000 gold magic items, after all. But as consumables, wealthy adventurers rarely bother. The younger mage looks him up and down before lazily introducing himself as Valor. He asks what scrolls are needed, clearly curious about the traveler's jet-black hair. Bowing slightly, the young traveler politely asks if there is a complete list he can browse. Right on cue, Valor pulls a thin booklet out from right under the counter. He slides it over, immediately turning his attention to other things. Picking up the booklet, he suddenly remembers that he cannot even read this world's language. Luckily, the drawings help, and the introduction lists Tier 0 scrolls in massive numbers. It is way more than expected, showing spells like Ignition and Everlasting Light. Simple cleaning spells are there, non-combat magic that is still highly useful. Rock mentioned wealthy merchants carry these for comfort. Flipping through, he quickly spots the Tier 0 papermaking spell on the page. Keeping completely quiet for now, he continues scanning until he reaches the Tier 1 section. It is much shorter but far more practical, featuring repair and scentless spells. These can erase a traveler's scent or summon a floating board. He even spots a magic arrow spell that fires 3 projectiles. Only 3 offensive scrolls, the rest pure utility. Turning slowly to the final page, he finds absolutely nothing else, leaving him briefly stunned. Wait, not a single Tier 2 scroll. This doesn't make any sense. If his memory serves, scrollmakers here can easily manage Tier 3 crafting. The slain theocracy even produces Tier 4 scrolls. So while a Tier 3 scroll is rare, Tier 2 should be common. It means these scrolls definitely exist, but they are simply kept away from the general public. Perhaps ordinary, lower-ranking adventurers lack the proper qualifications to purchase them. It seems he has been browsing too long, because Valor is suddenly snapping out of it. The mage stares at him with an impatient look, asking if he is ready. Looking up from the thin booklet, the young man nods and says he has finally made his choice. But he adds that he has just one more quick question to ask. Valor's bored expression softens slightly as he takes the manual back, lazily telling him to speak. The young man asks about the two different kinds of paper-making scrolls. This unique, otherworldly life magic apparently exists in both Tier 0 and Tier 1 forms. That is incredibly puzzling, since magic tiers were completely fixed in the game Yggdrasil. Level 20 changed nothing for first-tier magic, just a basic attack boost. Even the third-tier fireball was capped, despite swelling with extra mana. It was hard-locked, absolutely useless, and low-tier magic nullification. The Bone King and Floor Guardians of Nazarick would erase fireballs instantly. Completely erased, so hunting a level 100 player required 8th-tier magic. Minimum, Vala explains there is actually very little difference between the scrolls. Only that first-tier paper is whiter, finer, and much better for writing. As the merchant speaks, his eyes drift slowly across Minori with clear expectation. He is silently urging him to buy something, right now and the moment. Vala speaks, a surprising idea flashes right through Minori's mind, a sudden brainstorm. He suppresses it, ponders for a brief second, then makes his move. Give me 1 0-tier papermaking scroll, 1 heating scroll, and 1 magic arrow. Vala nods. Without a word, he walks straight into the rear wall. Behind the counter, stepping right through a massive mural, he just vanishes. Minori had no clue a hidden magic barrier was worked into that wall. Soon, Vala returns with the 4 scrolls, time to tally up the damage. 2 gold for the 0-tier pair, 1 gold and 10 silver for odorless. And 3 gold, 10 silver for the magic arrow, 7 gold, 7 silver total. Ouch, Minori's eyelids twitch at the price. First-tier scrolls shouldn't cost this much. But magic arrow is nearly 3 times more expensive than odorless. He hesitates. Then places 8 gold coins on the counter. Vala is left visibly surprised. The clerk says nothing, quietly counting out 6 silver and some small change. Minori now has 14 gold, 7 silver, and 4 copper left, tight. But it is enough for essential supplies. He tucks everything away, turning. To leave, once outside the guild, he slips the scrolls into his item box. And quicken his pace back to the inn. He is incredibly eager to run. A quick test on a brand new quest. Night has already fallen completely now. And the sky is pitch black, though the plaza has scattered street lamps. They stand far apart, very far, this being a border city the streets at. This hour are completely deserted. Suddenly, a figure steps from an alleyway ahead. Twirling a sharp dagger and deliberately making his footsteps heavy, stamping on purpose. Minori frowns, slowing his pace, the moment a man appears in front of him. A second figure slips behind, blocked. The thug ahead steps out and calls him little brother, asking with fake friendliness if he wants to buy them. A drink, the mugger is masked, dressed in black, while the one behind has already blocked any retreat. Trapped, Minori glances back out of the corner. Of his eye, the silent backup is wearing a black robe identical to his. With the hood pulled low, hiding his face in shadows, this is a robbery. Pure and simple. While planning a counter, the dagger wielder shrugs. No, no. They only want a quick drink and to borrow a little coin. Lies. The quiet one behind feels far more dangerous. Under his cloak, Minori quietly draws his short sword, casually asking them how they knew he had money. He instantly rules out the Mage Guild. Pride alone would prevent their ambush. Besides, he literally just left the guild and only arrived in Yggdrasil today. With the obvious culprit clear, a cold laugh slips past his lips. These thugs admit they have been watching him since he entered the city, if his guess is right. It means that when Dasari, captain of the Rock Squad, handed him that heavy pouch of coins, these two spotted it, and they likely target lone travelers entering the area. They ambush people leaving Yggdrasil. The dagger thief chuckles and calls him a clever kid. He warns him that they will not waste any more breath. He must hand over every newly bought scroll and all of his money if he wants to live. Otherwise, he has no problem slicing off the legs of this black-haired bastard. He plans to sell him as a slave because a faith caster who heals is highly demanded on the black market. Hearing this, his eyes instantly narrow. Aside from the Rock Squad, only the barrier grandparents actually knew he could heal. Neither group has any reason to leak his secret. The Rock Squad has professional ethics, and the grandparents would never betray him. A silver rank party would not slip. It is highly unlikely. He thinks it over and makes a sudden realization. Dozens saw him use it back at the Royal Capital Adventurers Guild. They want more than money. His gut tells him they want a slave. So he speaks the name aloud, 8 fingers. Instantly, the thief's hand freezes. Those 2 words leave his mouth, and the entire alley falls dead silent. The black-robed man behind him mutters in a low voice, warning his partner to stop wasting breath. The rogue growls back that he did not say anything, his gaze turning icy. He shifts his dagger into a reverse grip from their tense exchange. He knows his guess was spot on. Their real prize is him, not his coins. 8 Fingers is a massive underground syndicate with 8 criminal branches. Their terrifying influence stretches across almost the entire Reist kingdom. Even worse, faint threads of connection lead straight to the corrupt nobility. The syndicate thrives on child abduction, slave trafficking, and deep bribery. Their network of brothels runs deep, but he remembers the future clearly. In about 2 years, Golden Princess Renur will propose a decree to ban slavery. That single law will completely gut 8 Fingers in a highly calculated move. It is a brilliant maneuver that somehow passes despite a massive web of opposition. A princess locked deep inside the royal palace with absolutely no political backing. Yet she somehow rallies public support to pressure her enemies. She even managed to indirectly pressure the Baharth Empire's ruthless ruler. This earned her a terrifying nickname, Monster, but right now his body tenses. His left hand grips his short sword, while his right prepares a scroll. Pulling it from his inventory, he raises his voice to point something out. They are extremely close to the central plaza and the busy Adventurers Guild. He asks if they are not afraid he will scream and bring help. But the cold voice behind him tells him to scream as loud as he likes. Nobody will hear a thing. His chest tightens. He steals a quick glance backward. The man is holding a short 10-centimeter wand. Suddenly, his status screen flashes. A new system notification flashes. Silent skill discovered. It requires a base mage class rank 8 through 14. Requirements not met. He instantly recognizes the item in the black-robed man's grip, a magic wand. Unlike a standard single-use scroll, this magic wand actually allows for multiple casts. Back in Yggdrasil, these handy short wands are known to be extremely valuable. They offer far better value than scrolls, their only weakness. A holy light wand is locked to faith casters, while a fireball wand requires an arcane mage, while scrolls have no such annoying restrictions. Some high-level short wands can bypass the rules entirely, and in this fantasy world, short wands cost way more than standard spell scrolls. Short wands are genuine magic items. That black-robed figure is an arcane caster. Choosing between a rogue and an arcane caster, he knows exactly who to target first. The masked rogue commands him to yield, lunging forward with a reversed dagger. As the rogue barks his skill, his speed explodes and his outline blurs. He has to gamble. Without hesitation, he hurls the magic arrow scroll. The scroll flashes, releasing 3 non-elemental arrows flying at his enemy. A system notification pops up, magic arrow discovered. The requirement demands a base mage class rank from 1 to 7. He fails the check, but his genius class overrides it. Talk about luck. Spending a skill point to learn it, he charges ahead without looking back. Rushing the arcane caster, he confirms the system prompt mid-run. His new skill is unlocked. Magic arrow costs 5 mana for 3 projectiles. Adding more mana allows him to scale up to 10 arrows. While the enemy caster sneers, our cleric is simply too fast. Before an acid spell can be chanted, he unleashes his magic arrows. Utter shock fills the hooded wizard. How does a cleric know wizardry? There is no time to ponder. He desperately alters his spell to shield wall. A transparent barrier appears. His 3 magic arrows slam into the defense. Colliding forces cancel each other out, and the magical energies quickly dissipate. Frustrated, the caster snarls in rage and prepares to draw his staff. But the cleric has already closed the distance. The mage turns pale. Any wizard knows they must keep their distance to survive a fight. And 15 meters is way too close. He realizes his mistake too late. His short sword comes slashing down, too fast for any regular caster. Suddenly, a brilliant white barrier flares, stopping the blade with a dull thud. The defense dims instantly. He recognizes a magic protective item at once. His hood falls back, revealing a smug 20-year-old mocking the failed strike. But before the boy can celebrate, he reverses his grip and presses down. The protective light flickers and shatters under his immense physical weight. His sword tip slices clean through the wizard's throat in a bloodbath. Earning 350 experience points, he watches the idiot fall. That mage had a defensive item, but chose to gloat instead of casting. Watching his shield weaken, he let an enemy close without melee skills. Suddenly, a cold roar echoes from behind. The rogue is back. Bypassing the arrows completely, he approaches with completely silent steps. Using some stealth class ability, no doubt, the cleric spins around quickly. Suddenly, the dark purple glow of a magic dagger is at his eyes. Their blades collide with a piercing metallic ring, intense. His opponent gasps in shock and falls back a few paces, staring. He looks down at his short sword, seeing cracks and deep notches. Left by the clash, even so, the tension on the youth's face begins to ease. He tells him almost in surprise that he has realized the duel is far weaker than him. A strange look settles on the boy's face as he looks up, saying they are actually weaker than him, his tone carrying a genuine hint of quiet surprise. This lands on the rogue's ears, making him seethe with rage and sudden uncertainty. There is something wrong with this black-haired kid, the rogue silently realizes. That thought is written all over his face. Despite being a caster, the boy is not the slightest bit weaker physically, and his initial attack was blocked so easily. The youth stamps the ground and charges. With no time left for talk, the rogue barks that the kid is courting death, reaching for his waist to hurl a small dagger. Straight at him, the sharp whistle of sliced air rings out. He tracks the dagger easily and knocks it down with his short sword, though his forward momentum slows slightly. The rogue activates stealth, his body blurring in the already dark night as if he is merging into the shadows. The boy tenses for a strike, only to see him turn and flee. Instead, he will not let him escape. That sudden thought flashes through his mind, and he throws out a hand to cast magic arrow. 3 glowing bolts form in midair, rushing toward him. The incoming noise from behind forces the fleeing rogue to stop and roll to one side. The boy catches up in that brief gap, unleashing his fourfold slash of light. The short sword splits into 4 sharp afterimages and stabs at him. 4 blossoms of blood burst open on his chest. The rogue lets out a shrill scream, but silence still hangs heavily over them, keeping the cry from traveling. His eyes go bloodshot as he lies in his own blood, gasping out that this is impossible. It was supposed to be Gazef's skill. He never finishes. The life fades from his eyes, and the system awards him 380 experience points. He pants heavily, watching the corpse and the blood staining his blade in silence. He has killed 2 people in one stretch, a grim milestone he never imagined happening so soon, even though he always knew the day would come. He checks inside himself for disgust, but finds none. No guilt either, just a strange naturalness that almost feels chilling, and he murmurs softly that this is a truly terrible and hateful world. He scans the surrounding streets and confirms that no one came near during any of it. The 2 had picked their spot well. He wipes the blood from his cheek and stores both corpses in his item box, even pulling up the blood-stained floor tiles and storing them too, since his item box is essentially a spatial backpack with no real restrictions except that it cannot hold living things. He cleans the scene and heads back toward the inn, ducking into a small alley to swap his blood-soaked clothes for a clean set. He is glad he was cautious enough to buy a stock of ordinary clothing. The innkeeper is a plump, middle-aged woman named Melissy. With freckles across her cheeks, she calls out that her guest is back, and he nods politely with a small smile and heads upstairs. Behind him, he hears her yawn and mutter that he is a polite young man. The moment his door closes, his face goes slack with exhaustion. With only 13 mana points and 2 magic arrows already burned through, he cannot cast again. If he had let that rogue escape, he would have been in serious trouble. His 4-fold slash of light finished the fight, and using it for the first time taught him what the cost of concentration really is. A heavy drain on his personal energy, the body's feeling after sprinting 200 meters is not exhausting, but tangible. More importantly, the fight has given him a clearer measure of his own strength. The arcane caster used the 2nd-tier shield wall, showing he was clearly above rank 7, though not by much, and the rogue should have been at a similar level. By the math, he is only rank 5, and a pincer from those 2 should have crushed him even with the element of surprise. But setting aside that the mage failed to use his Advantages: the rogue was actually slower and weaker than him, which means his base stats are higher than a rank 7 human of this world, since Genius itself does not raise base stats. The increase comes from all the experience he poured into the middle-tier class sword sync, and unlike a player, he cannot rely on convenient class abilities for free, whether most natives can level base classes. It all is uncertain. Recalling physical attack 53 and agility 53, he concludes his base stats now exceed the normal rank 7 human threshold. He pulls the spoils. Onto the bed, a dark brown magic staff, a translucent white necklace, a short wand, and a dagger with a faint purple shimmer, 4 magic items and beyond. These, the two carried not a copper coin or anything that could identify them. Whether that is an 8 fingers rule or merely habit when hunting prey, he cannot say, but if it is the rule, then 8 fingers is more frightening than the anime ever showed. He sighs that without item appraisal magic, he cannot read these items' specific effects, though he can at least sense that the silent short one still has mana fluctuation and uses remaining. Plenty of casters no item appraisal, but bringing magic items to be appraised the same evening he dealt. With 8 fingers, people would draw their attention straight back to him, and they are very vengeful, so he decides a mage's guild visit must wait until tomorrow. He stores the 4 items again, taking out his 3 remaining scrolls. Paper-making, heat up, and odorless. Tearing each in turn, he spends skill points to learn them. These 3 are auxiliary spells and will not blow up like magic arrow. Odorless will clear his own scent for the forest. Paper-making goes without saying, and heat up he bought on a last-minute hunch he wants to test. Useful in any case for heating food and water in the wild, without a giveaway. Fire and adventurer's essential. After mastering the new scrolls, he checks his panel. Innate ability player, overall level 5, experience 830 over 400 base. Class Genius 1 with the warrior, priest, potion maker, alchemist, mage, and thief. Slots: middle tier class sword Saint 4, 3 skill points, passive item box end. Slash enhancement at 4%, warrior actives, instant reflex. Fourfold slash of light, quick slash and stealth, magic actives, paper making and heating at 0 tier, and light wound healing, magic arrow, and scentless at 1st tier. Professional skills potion making and alchemy, killing the 2-8 fingers men gave him a large block of experience, and he burned it to push sword Saint up to 5, bringing him to genius level 1 plus sword sync 5 at overall level 6. He had picked up stealth from the rogue, and also unlocked the basic thief profession in the bargain, with stealth costing nothing on a 1-minute cooldown, reducing his presence in darkness and adding 10% agility for 30 seconds. Paper making now shows an upward arrow next to it, as does heating, and the new descriptions show paper making at 0 tier, creates 1,000 sheets of low quality. 1 sheet of paper per mana, plus 500 more per point with no upper limit. 0 tier heating warms a touched object to 100 degrees within 1 minute, and his eyes instantly lock onto those arrows. This matches exactly what he had been guessing all along. His body tensed up earlier while paging through the booklet at the Mages Guild. He had noticed that paper-making strangely exists at both the 0 tier and 1st tier, which was odd because in Yggdrasil the entire tier system was always strictly fixed, yet life magic created independently by the people of this world can actually climb tiers. That alone is why he bought both spells, just to verify his theory. He decides to upgrade the 2 0 tier spells with 1 skill point each, and they both transform. 1st tier paper making now costs 5 mana, producing 800 sheets of high-quality paper, plus 400 more per extra point with no limit. Heating at 1st tier costs 5 mana, warming touched objects to 150 degrees in 1 minute. The upgrades worked exactly as predicted, and the arrows vanished afterward, but while he is pleased, he still frowns because the gap between 0 and 1st tier here is not huge. By standard learning levels, the 1st tier covers ranks 1 through 7 and the 2nd tier covers ranks 8 through 14, so the cap must be tied to his caster level, which is still way too low. He wonders whether continuous upgrades could push these basic auxiliary spells toward the 10th tier, and even if they could, would climbing the tier ladder actually make these spells carry true 10th tier power? Is spending precious skill points to climb them even worth it, since his points are so limited? These are just auxiliary spells after all. Every choice must be weighed, but excitement still leaks through his natural caution. Think about it, almost no native in this world can use 10th tier magic, and players cannot normally absorb 10th tier magic at all. Since nobody uses it for them to learn from, there is simply zero intelligence. On such a path, even in the Great Tomb's lore, he calms himself, rubs his temples, and lies back on the bed, deciding that most of these experiments can be tested later on. What matters most right now is raising his own level rather than putting the cart before the horse. He forces himself to sleep, to let the excitement settle. By dawn the next morning, he is already out, leaving the inn to buy food and essential supplies, with his item box's storage. He does not have to worry about spoilage. He spends 2 gold on almost a month's worth of food, splitting the purchases across shops so the volume does not attract unwanted attention. This task alone consumes his entire morning. After lunch, he checks out weapons. Since his shortsword is cracked, chipped, and completely useless, he buys 10 ordinary iron swords at 1 silver each, plus a set of light, soft armor for 1 gold. Next, he returns to the Mages Guild. Since they do not sell second-tier scrolls openly, he has to reveal himself as a faith caster, and only then does he secure an item appraisal scroll for 3 gold. It is second-tier name but priced like a first-tier offensive scroll since it is non-combat magic. Then he heads to the Adventurers Guild for intel on the Tobe Great Forest, which costs him another 2 gold. A full day of preparation has cost 8 gold total, and left him with 6 gold and 7 silver. 2 days pass in a flash. And on the first day of the lower wind moon, he finally departs Yggdrasil after 2 days of rest. He is robed in black, with an iron sword at his hip and a waterskin. Heading north, the vast primeval jungle of the Tobe Forest wraps around the Angelia Mountains, teeming with dangerous magic beasts and demi-human tribes. It is a forbidden zone where even top adventurers only tread the outer fringes. Leaving Yggdrasil in the early morning, he follows a rough guild map and intelligence, heading northwest toward the kingdom's frontier near the Great Tobe Forest, where a place called Karn Village sits. This border settlement has stood for nearly a century, but its long history has not saved it from deep poverty. In the kingdom, it is completely ignored, yet in this story it becomes a major hub where multiple plot lines collide rather than starting there. Suddenly, a loud cry cuts through his thoughts as a goblin leaps from the bushes. He draws his iron sword, sidesteps its frantic lunge, and slices the beast in half. In a single motion, he gains 30 experience points as it falls. He calmly flicks the green blood off his blade and scans his surroundings. Spotting 4 more goblins, instantly he casts Magic Arrow, spending some extra mana to summon 4 magical bolts and fire them off. 4 bursts of green blood erupt and notifications stack on his screen, awarding roughly 30 experience points each. It is about the same gain as a wild beast, meaning he should easily rank up by the time he reaches Karn Village. He steps over to harvest their ears, a pretty solid source of extra income at the Adventurers Guild. As he continues, he encounters several more waves of monsters, not just goblins but minor magic beasts too. Finally, as evening falls, he arrives at a village ringed by wooden fences, cooking smoke rising. Honestly, those flimsy fences would be completely useless against forest monsters, yet Karn Village stands untouched right on the edge of the Tobe Forest. Quite a fascinating mystery. Walking in, his sharp perception catches absolutely everything. After leaving Yggdrasil, he noticed a steady rise in monsters, yet as he neared Karn, their numbers suddenly dropped. This is all due to the 3 great beasts known as the rulers of the Tobe Forest. Ruling the south is the great demonic beast, the forest sage King Hamsuk. Ruling the east is the giant Trollo, and ruling the west is the demon snake Nagarius. Together they dominate the Tobe. Karn Village happens to sit right within Hamsuk's personal territory, which keeps lesser monsters away. All 3 rulers hover around level 30, placing them firmly inside the legendary hero realm of strength. A human hero would stand almost 0 chance against one of them in a fair fight, given their innate physical advantages. He shifts his gaze from the quiet village gate toward the primeval jungle beyond. The dense canopy completely blocks his view, yet his eyes settle in grave concern. The truly terrifying thing here is not those 3 rulers, but a massive hidden threat deep inside the woods. A legendary monster that descended 200 years ago during the era of the 13 heroes. The level 85 demon tree, which was merely sealed deep in the forest's heart. When the main story begins, the real reason Shelier ran into the slain Theocracy's strongest unit, the Black Scripture, carrying a world class. Losing to downfall of castle and country was not just bad luck for Sholtir. They deployed it because the seal on the demon tree was loosening. They desperately wanted to break the seal and completely control the giant monster with their legendary relic. But they ran right into Shortsword instead, starting an absolutely chaotic battle. The anime basically skipped right past this clash, dedicating only a single quick scene to it. But the light novel goes much deeper, revealing their massive losses. The relic's wielder actually died from Shortsword's desperate counterattack. Her final deathbed strike landed before mind control locked, leaving Shortsword as a mindless wild target. She stood there like a mindless target because her controller was dead. With the user gone, she froze. Suddenly, 2 local villagers appeared. They carry pitchforks to the gate, demanding to know who he is, so he speaks softly. He explains that he is just passing through and needs a place to sleep. Despite his gentle tone, they glance at each other, still highly suspicious. First, they carefully inspect the dark road behind him, relaxing only when they see he is truly alone. They ask him to wait while one of them quickly runs back inside. He quickly returns with a dark-skinned, weathered villager in his 50s, who is plainly their leader. This is clearly the village chief, and he immediately sizes up our traveler. His gaze locks onto his black hair. He gruffly asks if he is staying, and the traveler nods. The chief readily agrees, telling him to come right inside without asking even a single question. This surprises him, since Karn village rarely sees outsiders. Usually it is just tax collectors. The villagers shout out in protest. But the village chief just sighs, opening the wooden gate while explaining the harsh reality to them. These past couple of months are exactly when the forest monsters and beasts grow most restless. They get it, the road here is dangerous. Anyone walking it alone must be strong, meaning their fence could never stop him. Since this stranger did not try to force his way in, he obviously means no harm. With their fear gone, our traveler follows the chief into the village. Inside, he only sees desolation. It is quite a small, rundown place. At a single glance, you can easily see all 30 of the small houses standing there. A tiny portion of the ground has clean gravel, while everything else is overgrown with weeds. Still, the varying weed heights suggest that someone occasionally clears them away. Every single cottage is a low single story, with only a few built from gray stone. Their old gray walls show decades of wear. The chief points ahead, explaining that while their village is small, they have a few empty houses where he can stay. He invites him to use the space, and our traveler thanks him very warmly indeed. The old chief chuckles, waving it off as absolutely no trouble. They have not welcomed a single guest in a long time, his thick beard shaking as he speaks. Curious eyes watch them closely from every single doorway and open window. In such a small place, news travels fast. He offers a quiet nod. He gives a quick, polite nod and steps inside the empty house under their watchful gaze. Wait, this quiet village actually holds an insane surprise. There is a young girl named Enri who will later pull off the impossible. Using a simple item called the Goblin General's Horn, she will summon an entire legendary army. He highly suspects she holds an extreme, hidden talent for commanding goblins. But for now, she is just a regular village girl closing her wooden door. The old door creaks open on rusty hinges. Inside, the place is totally bare, save for a single wooden bed. Dust blankets the floor, while tattered cobwebs drape across the ceiling beams and corners. The bottoms of the floorboards are dark with dampness. He never expected luxury here anyway. Poor border villages lack fine rooms, but Ethan chose Karn village for a key reason. It is the closest settlement to the Tob Forest, situated right inside Hamsuk's secure territory. This means safety is high, plus, the trip from Aranal takes about 1 day each way. That makes a 2-day round trip, and though Ethan is already restocked, he needs a solid retreat point for unexpected setbacks, like an early forest exit. Or running short on critical supplies. Karn village fits that role perfectly. He really should have brought a cleanse scroll, he mutters, staring at the dust and endless cobwebs, while shaking his head, no matter how much he learned from the rock squad about adventure preparation. There are always going to be gaps, so Ethan cleans the room himself. Clearing a workable space, he pulls a basketball-sized ceramic pot from his item box, sets it down, and drops in pieces of broken-up cured meat. He pours water from his water skin, then taps the pot with his finger as he casts heat up. Within less than 30 seconds, the water is boiling hot. Slowly it turns into meat soup, drifting a rich, salty aroma through the room. Ethan smiles faintly, glad that his magic is at least highly convenient for cooking. A minute later, the soup is ready. He ladles a bowl, pulling out some Hard black bread to eat with it. Even boiled, the cured meat remains heavily. Salted but paired with the bread, it is quite good. After all, cured meat is a classic adventurer staple, usually far too salty to eat directly, so it is used in soups or as a salt substitute. For those doing hard physical work, it is an essential way to replace lost salt. Soon, the soup's savory, salty aroma drifts right out the window, immediately stirring up a quiet commotion in the poor village. Most of Karn village's income comes from wheat farming and gathering medicinal herbs along the forest edge. Hunting is simply too dangerous when the average villager is only rank 1. Ethan recalls there is a hunter here with a gorilla base class, but even he is only around rank 2. He checks his panel. Genius class level 1. Plus sword saint level 6 equals composite level 7, the leftover 8 fingers. Experience combined with the road's goblins and small beasts should let him push another rank, and the progress is pretty fast. Honestly, his grinding speed is insane. He can then max out Sword Saint and begin raising Genius, since Shaltir and Zeshi Zetsu likely have level 10 priest classes, and though he isn't sure if that is a strict requirement for Valkyrie, matching them cannot hurt. The next day at first light, Ethan packs up and leaves Karn village, but before he goes, he makes a special stop at the chief's place to pay 5 copper. For the night, knowing the locals here are simple folk, the chief tries to refuse. But Ethan presses it into his hand. He will very likely return to Karn village later, and building goodwill in advance is just basic relationship management. Besides, 5 copper is absolutely nothing to him. The air outside the Tob forest carries the scent of foliage, earth, and decay, the unique mixture only a jungle gives off. As he steps on thick leaves and moss, every step makes a soft rustling sound, like dry leaves rubbing and crunching together. From deep in the jungle, bird cries. An animal calls echo at intervals. He keeps his iron sword ready, skirting the outer. He is advancing toward the eastern part of the Tob forest, ruled by 3 sovereigns. The strongest is Hamsuk, the forest sage king. He could never outrun her. That cute look in the anime, just a filter. In reality, she is an incredibly terrifying, monstrous beast. Next is Ryuz, the terrifying demon snake of the west. He is highly intelligent, a dangerous magic caster, and equally deadly. Only the forest troll is different, acting as a stubborn warrior. His only real tricks are insane physical recovery and melee attacks. In a surprise encounter, escaping him is much easier. Surviving a troll is far more likely than escaping Ryuz. Tall, ancient trees crowd everywhere around him. Sunlight filters down, dappling the ground as he heads east with light steps. Sticking to the outer edge keeps him safe from danger. No beasts have appeared, but a sudden faint flutter echoes nearby. A tiny jade-green winged caterpillar slides off a leaf. It slowly floats down from the branches, heading straight toward his head. Just as it reaches the air above him, he slices it cleanly with his iron sword. 1 experience point gained. A fishy odor now fills the air. Was it poisonous? Without mastering detection magic, he can only guess. Relying on his own judgment, his primary stats have reached 73. Armed with 73 attack points, he can chop down a thick tree in 3 swings. A single punch leaves a deep dent in a stump, showing his extreme power. Agility is harder to measure, but his 5 senses are razor sharp. Even with his old 63 agility, a level 8 rogue felt slow. He now turns his thoughts to the Rock Squad, the adventurers he knows best. Their captain, Dasari, is easily the strongest fighter among them. But right now, he feels he might actually surpass the captain in pure power. On top of martial arts, he also has some skill in magic. A head-on fight is risky, but a sneak attack would wipe them out. He might get hurt, but reaching silver rank strength is a massive leap. It is mind-blowing how powerful this innate player ability really is. 200 years ago, a player captain led the 13 heroes. Even the Platinum Dragon Lord feared him because of his rapid growth. Pressing forward, the real trouble in this forest is not the beasts. It is actually the tiny, colorful insects carrying deadly venom. Although his high agility keeps him safe from sudden insect attacks, dealing with them is troublesome, and the experience yields are extremely low. This slow grind holds him back. Then a sharp snap echoes. A branch breaks under his foot, normally lost in the rustling wind. Yet he stops immediately and glances toward the shadows on his left. He smiles, realizing he has finally found some decent prey at last. Resting in the branches is a pitch-black creature covered in green spots. He is incredibly lucky it is daytime, or he would have missed it. At night, the beast would be completely invisible to his naked eye. Something feels off. The outer forest has been far too quiet until now. The likely reason is that this place belongs to some pretty powerful beast, or maybe a magic beast. His eyes lock onto a dark shape in the leaves. It is easily over 1 meter long. He narrows his eyes and raises his sword. The leaves rustle softly. The beast clearly knows it is spotted. A bright red, forked tongue flicks from its mouth. In the next breath, a dark green figure explodes from the foliage like a coiled spring. Its jaws fly wide as it lunges at him. Dark scales catch the light. With a cold metallic sheen, finally he recognizes it, a giant snake. It is over 6 meters long and as thick as 2 human thighs, aiming for his head. He swings his iron sword hard right at the open maw, and the blade strikes with a dull thud, sparks flying where scales meet steel. And he narrows his eyes at the sheer hardness. The beast hisses in pain, its 6 meter body twists violently as its thick tail whips around. The air screams as the massive tail cuts through. He presses his right hand sword against the snapping jaws. Reaching out into thin air with his left hand, he pulls a second iron sword from inventory and slashes to block the incoming tail. Another heavy impact the sudden force makes him stumble back as his shoulder jolts, but the block holds firm. The giant serpent hisses again, planting its midsection to press him from both sides. It twists relentlessly, clearly trying to coil around and crush him with sheer constriction, but using his high agility, he parries both ends. With a sword in each hand while steadily backing away, the scales are incredibly tough and the slick body makes raw strength completely useless. His blades just slide off, losing most of their power on contact. This creature he thought was just a giant snake is definitely a magic beast. In this fantasy world, anything with special traits fits the bill. Seeing that he cannot pierce its scales, the serpent's yellow eyes lose their caution. It completely stops defending and attacks even faster. The whipping tail clashes with his sword with even more violent force, but he knows this is plenty. Now watch as he completely turns the tables. He could escape using speed alone, but this beast is too much good experience. So he stomps the ground and leaps backward, pretending to flee in panic. And just as he hoped, seeing its prey run, the dumb monster cannot read the act. It arches its upper body way back, coiling tightly before launching forward like a missile. This is the exact opening he has been waiting for. His eyes light up. He flips his iron sword and hurls it like a javelin straight into the open mouth. A sickening impact. The blade pierces the soft throat, dragging out a thick spray of white fluid and dark red blood. Shredded flesh scatters across the ground. The massive serpent crashes down, writhes in agony. Its tail thrashes, smashing nearby trees. He clicks his tongue and steps back a few paces to watch quietly. Since the outer scales are way too tough, he targeted the soft inside. After 2 or 3 minutes of heavy thrashing, the beast finally stops moving and lies still. The system awards him 150 experience, bringing his current points to 421 out of 1,000. He smiles at the hull and walks away. Leaning over, he finds his iron sword caked in grime and blood. He grimaces, pulling out a sheet of stiff, yellowed paper he made earlier with a scroll. Retrieving it from his inventory, he wipes the blade clean before picking it up. The scales of this giant serpent would make decent armor. Surveying the 6-meter body, he sees that aside from the head wound, it is completely intact, but he is not interested in basic armor. With this world's limited craftsmanship, the best gear made from these materials would only reach a superior grade. Let's be real, he would rather spend his time chasing the legacies of the 8 Greek kings or the 6 great gods.